All right, good day. Welcome back to the People's Podcast, the Cheech and Manny Music Show, or sometimes known as the Cheech and Manny Music Podcast, the People's Podcast. I'm
Yes.
joined with the People's Bassist, Mr. Chris Carrera. What is going on, brother?
What's up, man? How's everything? How you
Oh,
doing? I love the People's Podcast. Bobby loves it, man. He loves
dude,
it.
I gotta admit, Bobby, he watches every episode. Love,
Yeah,
love that idea of the People's man. So gotta
yeah.
give him props for
Because
that.
everything we do is the people. We have a People's keyboardist. We have a People's podcast.
The
So
People's drummer,
great concept. People's drummer.
which is
Yeah,
legendary.
yeah, man.
And what's
So,
going on with you, brother?
day at the temple. Pretty good day. Played some bass. Came home, practiced. We might be doing this little like showcase gig on Friday, like 4 or 5 songs. Um, and I know just to give a shout out, it won't be aired, but I know DJ Daquan, just to promote him. He's got a big show coming up this weekend.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah,
Do you know the spot or?
somebody who works at Whole Foods has a bar.
Oh, is it Chato? Is it
He
Angel?
got, yeah.
Oh,
I
that's
think he's
really
doing
cool. I
it there.
forgot the name of his place. Okay, plug in
Yeah.
for him. Okay,
He's a great guy, and I'm rooting for Daquan to do really
that's
good.
that's awesome.
Yeah,
Very talented. I love how he got into the DJing. He's pretty good, which is awesome.
yeah, and he's like the promoter, and he's the
It's
organizer.
amazing.
Got a bunch of good DJs. So
He has his own interesting artistic journey. So yeah, I'm happy for him. That's really cool.
yeah. So before I go on my fucking rave,
Yeah, we have so much raves, dude.
there's a
Oh
lot.
gosh.
There's a lot of rage in me today over what I just read. Wait, I'm gonna put this down. All right. Hold on. Okay, so just a shout out always to Potter's Field. Check out. We put out Presto and Roll the Bones. Right. That was the latest
The
one.
last one was Roll the Bones. Yeah.
And Killers. We have Zeppelin 4 due to come out and Test for Echo, and we're about to record Houses of the Holy.
Yeah.
And
I think, did I release Counterparts yet or not yet?
no, we got Counterparts to
That's
come out
coming
too.
up. So it'll be, so most likely because there is a Led Zeppelin movie this weekend, I'm going to release
Yeah.
4 first, and then I'll watch out for Counterparts,
Yeah.
and then Test for Echo.
Yep. And then we're gonna have a punk one, and we're just throwing some ideas about doing movie soundtracks with Mark
Yeah.
and scores. Just throwing that out there.
That's really cool.
So before we get into the diss songs, the original diss song, I'm just gonna rant and rave about this bullshit list about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Okay, I know I feel like Eddie Trunk, but anyone who takes a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame seriously is fucking, there's something wrong with them, because these bands are not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So any of the bands I'm about to name that are newer shouldn't be in there. Okay. Iron Maiden is not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They snubbed them this year. Maiden is like, fuck you very much. We don't even want to be in it. Thin Lizzy is not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
That's crazy.
Motorhead, Blue Oyster Cult, Motley Crue, Styx, and I believe Jethro Tull. And I'm just naming only a few I read.
That's so crazy.
So this year's nominees: Bad Company, who should have fucking been in it. No, number one, before Bad Company, Chubby Checker. The guy's a legend. The Twist, like, that should have been in it 30 fucking years ago. And I know the keyboard player, Jim Wacker, he jams with our with Potter's Field. He sits in with us on Rock and Roll Dinosaur. The guy's one of the greatest musicians I know. So I'm happy for Jim Wacker and Chubby Checker, but I hope, but Chubby Checker should be in it already. I was like, what, Chubby Checker? Bad Company is not in it. They were on Swan Song. Can't Get Enough of Your Love, Feel Like Making Love.
They should have been inside a long time ago.
Joe Cocker, the dude who played Woodstock. He's a legend. I mean, and there's one other one. Mariah Carey. I mean, she's done a lot of shit, but should she be in that category? No, but I have much respect for her. The nominees for this year. Sorry, Devontae. Outcast, The Black Crows, Soundgarden, Fish, and the band that I want to wipe my ass with, the White Stripes. Okay? Now, to go back, I feel like Eddie Trunk. Eddie Trunk is coming out of me. To go back to Outkast, I love Outkast. I think he's a genius at what he does, whatever. But too early for him to be in it. Okay? Maybe in another 20 years. Black Crows, genius band. I love everything they do. I've met them. They're cool guys. It's a little maybe too early because fucking Thin Lizzy, Motorhead, Blue Oyster Cult, Styx, and Maiden aren't in it yet. You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
Soundgarden, same thing. And a band called Fish, who I really like because I like the jam band stuff. And I don't think Fish should be in it yet, but Fish should definitely be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because they're like the Grateful Dead. They're for what they did for the culture. But none of those bands should be in it until the bands that I named and listed are in it. Motorhead, for God's sake. So that's just my rant on that bullshit, Rocket. I mean, how do you feel about it?
I mean, just the fact that for me, it's crazy how, like, Joe Cocker, like, wait,
Yeah.
Isn't this the guy that played at one of the most legendary rock and roll shows in rock and roll history? That makes no sense.
Yeah, he did the Beatles.
Chubby Checker should be in there way before because he is a godfather. I mean,
The Twist is one of the most popular songs of. I think it came out in the 50s, I believe. Maybe early 60s. I'm gonna say I gotta look that up. But either
the one that I don't like, and by the way, the one that
Billy Idol too. Billy Idol.
Okay. If we do an order, dude. First of all, and Joy Division and New Order, I don't know if I would classify. I mean, I guess okay. They're part of the post punk. So yeah. Okay, they're godfathers of a lot of things. But first of all, Chubby Checker, Joe Cocker, Billy Idol, and
Bad Company.
And Bad Company, and especially Bad Company, because they are one of the sort of like the very influential 1970s like rock bands. Like I don't.
Yeah, Paul Rogers is one of the greatest. Next to Plant, Paul Rogers is the voice of rock and roll. Him and Glenn Hughes. I mean,
that's mine. And then you're gonna put, no offense, Mariah Carey, and watch.
I mean, Mariah Carey has done a lot of great stuff. Especially, we talked about her on the Christmas show, but.
But before them, imagine, what the rock and roll. It'd be a miracle if they picked the right choice. But
Mariah Carey before Chubby Checker, no fucking way.
Oh, God.
And as much as I love Fish, I love the Black Crows. Their time is not now.
And same Oasis was in there. I think it's too early with Oasis. If anything, do you know the band the Stone Roses?
Yeah.
They should be in there before Oasis, or maybe I don't know if the Smiths are in. Maybe the Smiths, but
like Maiden, Thin Lizzy, Motorhead, Motley Crue, Blue Oyster Cult,
that's crazy.
And Tull. Once those bands are in it, then
I'm amazed Tull is not in.
I don't even think Metallica should fucking be in it, man, because Iron Maiden's not in it. Thin Lizzy's not in it.
Oh, man.
Okay, Motorhead's not in it, so Metallica shouldn't be in it. I mean. And I think I think Lars or somebody said that, like, wow, Maiden's not in it, and we're in it. It is whoever runs that shit is they're a bunch of millennials with their noses up their ass, and they have no idea.
No, they don't know like how the best and the greatest. And it's funny, they in their nominee list that you shared, I'm looking at as well. Yeah. They included this Spanish band called Maná. Now, I don't know if you know what this band is, Maná. But dude, in the rock, sort of like world in the Latin world, dude, they're the most least rock and roll thing, and they're kind of like the U2, kind of, but I think kind of worse because they're kind of like sellouts.
Really?
Yeah, I mean they have some tunes, like they have a few, but but in like the rock and roll Latino world, like they're not respected. So the
Really?
fact that they chose like, I don't know if they, I don't know if
So
this.
they have a Latin Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, or they're just in there.
No, they don't. And so I think it's interesting how they chose this band, Mana, which again, they're pop, if anything.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, there are other better rock bands than this one that should
Oh,
have
yeah.
got.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, Jesus, Bad Company. You know what I mean? Like, and then I mean, you know how I feel about the White Stripes. Like, I just never got it. Can't stand it. Uh, it's like me playing guitar and me playing drums and recording it on a 4-track. I mean, and it would sound horrible. I'm not. I don't know. I just never got it. So, but the White Stripes should be way off that list. That
They should know. Yeah.
I could say, okay, the Black Crowes, yeah, but they shouldn't be in it. And Fish, Soundgarden, way too early, way too. And you know what? Think about quality. How many great albums did Soundgarden have? Maybe 3. You got to think about quality of albums. Black Crowes had a great run of albums. Fish, they had a shit ton of albums, but I don't know all of them. But just for what they did for music, they took over for the Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
Like they're the number 1 jam band. But they shouldn't be in it either at this point. Get Thin Lizzy in there, and So anyway, that's just
Dude, I'm shocked Thin Lizzy is not in there. Like that's
Thin Lizzy not be in the Rock and Roll Hall.
man. I mean, is this a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or a Rock and Roll?
Motorhead's not in it. If you're gonna go back to the '80s, Motley Crue should be in it for what they did. Whitesnake, my boy John Sykes should be in it. I mean, and if I don't know. It sticks. It's Paradise Theater. It sticks. So it's a joke. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you suck.
And if you look at their inductees,
they can't cancel us like Eddie Trunk got canceled. and to put it, if it wasn't for Eddie Trunk, Rush would have never gotten in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
That's how sad it is, man.
Yeah, I don't know. This Rock and Roll Hall of Fame always confused me. Like,
yeah, I don't know how the Baseball Hall of Fame goes. Like maybe is it similar? Like are there people in the Baseball Hall of Fame that should be in it that are in it that shouldn't be in it, opposed to like the old famous people that should be in it? I don't know, but who knows, man. Anyway, that's just my rant on that. So anyway, the next thing before we go on, I liked your Simon and Garfunkel. That's probably the first diss song, and it's pretty funny. It's funny.
Dude, I'll be honest with you, it's off there. I don't know if you're a fan of Simon and Garfunkel. I love their music.
Yeah,
they're 3 albums. Well, they've released. I have 3 of them that are.
Silence.
Well, Bridge Over Troubled Water, which is beautiful, and then they have Bookends, which man, love Bookends, and then this one, which is my favorite, Parsley, Sage, Parsley.
Parsley,
Sage, Rosemary, and Thyme.
Yeah,
it's funny. I was listening to this, and I completely forgot that Paul Simon did this diss track, and it's
the viewers could check it out.
So the song is weird too because he makes fun of like a Bob Dylan title. So I thought it was really funny, and I love how you brought that up because I'll bring it up. And yes, I'll be honest with you, this could be the first diss track along. And just one more fun fact before I forget, I also learned that John Lennon's "How Do You Sleep at Night" also can be considered one of the first diss tracks against McCartney.
Really?
Yeah. And then because Leonard Skinner came way after.
Oh yeah.
So and I was reading somewhere that but no one acknowledges this song by Paul Simon.
Right.
Because no offense, the lyrics he's kind of making fun of Dylan.
He's mocking him in the song.
No, and I'll show you. So it's off there. By the way, and for our listeners, this is a must listen. 1966's Parsley, Sage, Rosemary, and Thyme. one of the icons of the folk movement, folk music,
Yeah, yeah.
folk sound, folk rock.
It's the same year as Highway 61 Revisited.
Oh wow, I just noticed that. That's
So
actually even funnier.
you think?
Um,
I wonder what came out first. I mean, they must have been. Do you think it's a jealousy thing? Like, who this guy Bob Dylan is really blowing up,
you,
and
you know what's funny? It's funny. I was looking also in the history of the recording of this album before Simon and Garfunkel recorded this album. They were struggling.
yeah,
So I would wonder if this is Paul Simon's like kind of like it might be petty, like
yeah,
So he's saying, how can this dude who can't even like you know, I guess because Paul Simon is a legendary songwriter, so
yeah,
he has a right to critique.
yeah.
Um, and the song is funny. It's a long title. It's called "A Simple Desultory Philippic," or "How I Was Robert McNamara into Submission." So it's a weird. It's funny, and just to highlight some of the lyrics, I find it so funny because it's literally obvious jabs. Like, look what he says here. He doesn't dig poetry. He's so unhip. When you say Dylan, he thinks you're talking about Dylan Thomas, whoever he was. Like, he is taking direct jabs. And look at this. Whoever he was, that man ain't got no culture. But it's all right, ma. Everybody must get stoned. Even like Coffee's is,
Oh
singing
my
stuff. It's
God.
it's dude. He's taking jabs.
Yeah,
So I
and
don't know. I don't know if this is petty. I don't know if
and it's not like a friendly joke. You know what I mean? Like
no. It's outright like insulting him.
I wonder if Dylan what his response to it was. I would love to Google that and see like what he was he like fuck you guys. I'm off to being a way. I mean, Dylan's way bigger than Simon and Garfunkel. As far as like I a legend in music. I think you know what I mean. Simon and Garfunkel had some great music, but I think Bob Dylan is a total surpassed them in the musical world. You know, uh, especially in the '60s, especially at this time.
Oh yeah.
But I love the Ayn Rand thing in communism. It's like 30 seconds into the song. But so
Yeah, because he says here, I guess just because we're both we love Ayn Rand, but
yeah,
he says here, and it's funny the references. I've been rolling stoned, right, and beetled till I'm blind. I've been Ayn Randed, nearly branded communist because I'm left-handed. That's the hand I use. Well, never mind. Like,
but why would Ayn Rand come up?
well, I told you, Ayn Rand is interesting. She was labeled. It's so odd. She's so misunderstood because I think at one point she was labeled a communist
Oh,
when
in the
she
six.
yeah,
Yeah,
when she wasn't. If anything, like her philosophy was more kind of like
object.
yeah, but dude, it's kind of considered right wing.
Yeah, but like Dylan never sang about her, or maybe he did, and we haven't dug deep enough.
Well, no, but you know what it is? He's making fun. You know how Dylan does the political songs?
Yeah,
He's making fun of sort of like that style.
right, right,
Like
right,
I've
right.
been Ayn Randed, nearly branded a communist. Like so, that's kind of like how Dylan would make these political songs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's kind of making fun of that.
Right, right.
So, and I
Wow.
think, and again, it's so interesting how he mentions Ayn Rand
That blew my.
because
It's the first thing my ears were like, whoa, like
yeah,
before this is pre-Rush, mind you. You know what I mean? Like,
the fact that Paul Simon knew Ayn Rand and was kind of you
well, I
know
think she was she was read by the beat poets and the beatniks. So she was she was out there already when her books came out in
well, it makes sense.
you know, but her philosophy I think got popular in the '60s and especially in the '70s with the hippie culture.
Yep,
You know,
yep,
with
yep.
some people, like Crowley, like people these
She had
people.
like a big influence, but I will say like that disappeared because then they kind of hated against her.
Oh yeah, yeah. By the time the '80s came along, she was just you had to read her books in school, but you didn't study her, and she wasn't mentioned in a philosophy.
Right,
Um,
right.
even like when I say that to that philosopher who comes into the temple, he looked back when I said Ayn Rand, you know.
Yeah, no, it's sad. I mean, you're right though. I could see how her popularity was the case, but what's interesting is that, and I'm pretty sure I would have to kind of like fact check this, but do you remember those American boards that were led by McCarthy to find communists in the United States?
Yeah,
I think she was sort of labeled as a communist, but she was fleeing communism. But
yeah,
because of her work, which
yeah,
again, it's the objectivist philosophy once you really understand it, and
yeah.
it's kind of sad. Yeah, and I told you, today's philosophers don't take her seriously.
And I think she's one of the greatest philosophers. I love her work. I love her books. I mean, she's one of those like Anthem. The greatest book I ever read. I love it. It blends that philosophy into a story. And we talked about
Dude, the best philosophers do that. Like
yeah.
and by the way, her books are best selling. I mean,
Atlas Shrug and what's the other one? What's the other big one? My brain is shutting down. Oh God, I forget. I don't know. But we all read them in high school. But I blew off the books, and once I got into Rush, I got Anthem, and I got into her philosophy, and I was like, I like her because it's basically about individualism, creativity, being yourself. And I always say, I mentioned it before in the show, go on YouTube and watch her on Donahue, the old talk show host from the 80s. Donahue was a great, great talk show host, and she put him in his place. He didn't fuck with her, and she was like 80 years old back then. She was like this old lady, so who did not want to meet Rush or gave a shit about Rush.
no, I mean that makes sense because Ayn Rand is so high intellectual. Like she probably didn't take music like the rock music seriously.
And if she listened to 2112, she probably might have sued them because it's Anthem. It's the book Anthem.
Most likely, yeah.
Oh, but anyway. So anything else before, I think I thank you for letting me get my frustrations out.
Oh, good.
We won't talk about the Super Bowl because we won't get that'll be more frustration. But we'll let that go. But why did they at the I didn't really watch it, but did they boo Taylor Swift or something like that at the Super Bowl?
No, I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that.
Heard on the news that they were. I don't know, but all I gotta say is I seen a picture of Taylor Swift, and I think I texted this to you. She looks so much like Zena LeVay. It's scary. It's fucking scary. She's actually in this picture. She's actually beautiful. I was like, God damn, she looks good. She looks so much like Zena LeVay. I just throw that out there. So anyway, let's jump into Highway 61 Revisited.
Highway 61. So after all that negativity, let's bring it back home. Let's revisit. We're revisiting Highway 61.
And so I take it back. This album was 1965.
And what the song came out in 1966. So he was definitely taking jabs. I mean, because in 1966, I don't know if he released Blonde on Blonde when Paul Simon.
He probably did because he released Bring It All Back Home in the same year as this album.
Yep.
Yep. So this is just to repeat the list, and I don't have all of them on here, but I do have a fun fact on here. Bring It All Back Home came out in 65. Rubber Soul, My Generation, A Love Supreme, one of your favorites, by Coltrane. The Sound of Music. I love that soundtrack.
Oh, dude, talk about musicals. Oh, by the way, we were talking about the soundtrack episode. We also got to make a distinction with musical soundtracks.
That's a good point too.
Well, Sound of Music is. Oh, I love it. I love the movie.
I brought up Grease, and Grease is a musical soundtrack. West Side Story too was on my list.
Yeah,
musical soundtrack. So Help by the Beatles. Love and Spoonful, Do You Believe in Magic? And this is so funny. Mary Poppins soundtrack was the best-selling album for 4 weeks.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, the Mary Poppins soundtrack is also really good. I
Yeah.
mean, the duo of, the history, the duo behind that was iconic. Just
Oh
trying
yeah.
to come up with the soundtrack and one that the author of Mary Poppins would approve as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Try to approve it because that wasn't
I mean, the Sound of Music and Mary Poppins.
Julie Andrews, which I love wholeheartedly.
Oh, great, great soundtrack. And just off topic for 1 second. Who's the pianist that you posted in your story yesterday?
Oh, so I don't know who that pianist is. He's famous, but he was playing Eric Satie,
Yeah, yeah. That
the
was
famous guy who made the song. And I could be butchering this, but the Gymnopedies or Hymnopedies.
I haven't heard of that. In music.
Oh, dude, it's iconic. Dude, in his music. I'll send you the pianist. It's Eric Satie or Satie.
Yeah,
I'll see. I
he's
don't know.
amazing. It brought to mind, and I sent you a couple of things. Like now, John Cage is known for his insanity avant-garde stuff, but he
Mhm.
did some really cool piano albums, and I sent you, one of his pieces where he plays the piano,
Right.
and it's that minimalistic, repetitive piano playing. And then I also sent you. I just got into. I was listening to Philip Glass, Einstein on the Beach, and you probably heard it. It was like, what the fuck? But the repetitive vibe. I mean, it's an opera that's like 15 pieces long, but it's like the repetitive violin playing over and over, and then the craziness of the opera. And it's not even opera; it's people just talking. The king of the minimalism is Philip Glass, and John Cage. So that piece just that you
Wait,
sent.
so you never heard of that piece before?
No, but it made my
Wow, dude, it's one of my favorites. Yeah, it's called, and I'll send you the name of the piece and the composer. Now that pianist was interpreting, right? He's also I don't know that pianist per se, but he was playing. And I could be butchering the name, but it's Gymnopédie number one.
yeah.
And dude, it's the type of song that just reaches
His
the soul.
technique was incredible. It reminded me
Oh,
of John.
yep.
That piece, very soft, light touch, repetitive notes. Great stuff. Check out avant-garde music and whatever this guy's name is. We're all over the place, from Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
27 minutes in so far of our
Yeah,
4 hour episode on Dylan.
and we will not bring up the Super Bowl performance because it'll be another hour on that.
Oh gosh, that could be a rant, but we gotta be careful because we might. It's one of the most loved things, so we'll be one of
Yeah,
the few haters.
yeah. So Kendrick Lamar, great job. At the Super Bowl. Maybe next year, Rush will play it and have guest drummers come on. That would be, or Iron Maiden, that kind of thing. Anyway, so here we go. Highway 61 Revisited, 1965, released on Columbia Records. It was produced by two people, Bob Johnson and Tim Wilson. Dylan took the same approach as Bring It All Back Home by using all rock musicians as his backup band. And every track is a combination of blues rock, a little bit of folk rock, and a lot of poetry and absurdity. So he took a departure from his roots. Again, it's not much folk. Maybe the last song, the 11-minute song, is a little folky. What's the name of it?
Desolation Row, and it's funny. Um, that's the most likely 11-minute folk song that he concludes
and
the
that's
album with.
that's a great song. And he captures some political and cultural ideas on it. And this is a great quote. A writer named Arthur Michael Gray said this is the most important album of the 60s.
Well, it's funny. So we did an episode on Bring It All Back Home, which you should watch. Everybody out there, watch that episode and let us know what you think.
Best, man.
And so it's funny, Bob Dylan. And the more I read up on this man and listen more to his music, he's, I mean, honestly, he's for what he did is, I don't even know how to. He's such an enigma because he got his start in the folk movement, and he was massively successful to the point where he was pretty much reinventing folk music. I mean,
Yeah,
you got to think about Pete Seeger was and Woody Guthrie were trying to do it themselves,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Having a collection of songs that from the folk American tradition and
Mm,
soundtrack, which also included the Delta blues stuff and all that
yeah,
good stuff.
yeah.
Dylan came, mastered the tunes, popularized it, and then in 1965 with Bring It All Back Home, he decides to bring it back home, reject that, and say,
Yeah.
you know what? No, rock and roll. This is the sound I want, right? Already getting hate from the folk community because it would be the equivalent of, somebody like Taylor Swift going metal. And the
Right.
fans would be like, "Boo! What are you doing?" Like
Yeah,
Taylor
yeah.
Swift donning changing her look, putting a leather outfit.
You know, I, I respected Lady Gaga. Now looking at all the garbage that's out there, when Lady Gaga came out, and they're playing her a lot in the temple lately, and I really like her stuff. But she was a metalhead. She came out and said, I like Maiden and I like Zaxxon,
No,
and she,
you could tell from her look.
and she did some shows with like Zaxxon, like she would sit in
Yeah,
Europe and play with them, and that's pretty cool.
yeah. No, I believe you. No, Lady Gaga just had to. Well, she herself was an innovator in her pop
Oh,
genre,
I think she's
so
brilliant. She
she changed kind of like some. She was an influence on later awful artists like Kesha, or even I don't know. But the point is, like
morning feeling like
no,
P Diddy. I mean,
no. But the point, Lady Gaga was the artistic version of that. Now, I'm not a fan of her music, obviously, but I do respect what she did, and I could see how she came from like the heavy metal world
yeah,
just
yeah.
based on her look and her style. But obviously, she had to, you know, reflect what was popular at the time. So
But she could write it. She wrote some great pop songs.
and
She like,
and sing
she could sing, play piano.
and
I
act.
and act. I give Lady Gaga all the props in the world.
Yeah, she was. I would say if we were gonna rank like some of the best artists of the 2000s, she'll make the list for
I
sure.
Lady Gaga than Mariah Carey. Nope, shoot me for saying that, but you know,
Oh,
um,
well, I'll pick Amy Winehouse over Mariah
Alicia,
Carey.
Alicia Keys too is another one. Gene.
I would pick Alicia Keys over Mariah Carey only because of her return of the kind of like that blues kind of like sound.
And the piano work. What a talent! What a talent!
Such a shame that I don't know what happened to her, but
Yeah,
maybe it's a happy story. I think she got married, so I think it's a happy story. But she,
yeah. She had time. She was young. She came out at the right time, at the right place.
I love the title of her album songs. I think in the key of A minor.
Hey,
It's just a great because of
the
I know
Stevie.
you know the A minor, but
Yeah,
the A minor is such a great chord.
especially on the piano. It's just like it's Beethoven. It's that dark. It's Stairway to Heaven, and don't
Right, right.
don't. A minor G to F is like your standard rock and roll chords or minor chords. Um. Anyway, so where was I?
Well, Chief. So before we continue, have you listened to this album before, or
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
so you were aware of it?
I knew. Yeah, yeah. I
Do
knew
you
that.
agree with at one point Rolling Stone declared it one of the greatest albums of all time. It's on a lot of people's top lists. Do you agree with that?
After listening, okay, what I'm about to say. After listening to this, Blonde on Blonde, I wore out because I listened to that so much, and then bringing all back home. I gotta say, I'm torn between this and Blonde on Blonde.
Yeah, I
I
think that's yeah.
right now at the moment, I like this better, and
Right.
I'm gonna tell you why. And when we get there, because of three musicians that there are three musicians on this album that make the sound.
Oh, man, I know one of them already.
And it's so important, and I'm going to bring them up. And this is why it's going to be a long show because they need to be, talked about. So he's still in the folk rock, blues, rock and roll style. The singles on the album. Am I ringing the wrong page? Okay. The singles on the album are "Like a Rolling Stone." I mean, that's Dylan. That's probably the most popular song, right? Would you say by Bob Dylan, like
I would
commercially?
say, yeah. It has this album has the tunes that even if you're not a Bob Dylan fan or
Yeah,
don't know anything Bob Dylan, most of the songs, and especially like a Rolling Stone,
genius,
um,
genius
is
song.
is the song that he will always be remembered by. And
Yeah,
obviously, that all the songs on this track list, um, and we're gonna be talking about them, but songs like just Highway 61 Revisited
yeah.
and Ballad of a Thin Man, like these
Oh,
songs, like
who's Mr. Jones? I mean, we're gonna get into that.
you know,
That's a
do you, Mister Jones? Great, but
like
you're right. I love what you said. I agree with you. Most people, these songs, they know them. Like it's
oh yeah. For me, like a Rolling Stone, like I grew up on AM radio as a kid. It was in rotation, knocking on heaven's door. Dylan was always on the radio, especially like a Rolling Stone. Like
no, Cheech. It's isn't it crazy how, like, let's be honest, Dylan's voice, he doesn't know how to sing.
not,
What do
I
you
mean,
think about
I
that?
like his voice, but he's not Robert Plant. He's not Ian
So
Gillan.
why is it now? Again, I would be curious because you grew up on this. Why is it that he is played and played and played? Like, why his songs?
He has a magic about him. He has a
That,
certain
that-
writing.
that's the enigma, right?
He's got a writing skill. Um, that the way he writes his songs, there's a certain pattern, and he has a unique the way he phrases songs, and he has whining kind of kind of like that kind of nobody did that. That was like unique. It's almost like you could be annoyed by it, or you could be like, well, pretty interesting. The one critique that I have, especially on this album, only because I'm in love with the three musicians that I'm going to bring up, he doesn't make the backup band shine.
Okay,
If
wait, pause right there. Dude, I 100% agree. And you know the one rare moment where he did let that happen? Can you take a guess?
an album,
Yes, where he let the backup band just shine.
I'm gonna probably say
Yep,
um
yep.
Tombstone Blues.
Tombstone Blues. And you know why. And we're going to talk about him. I'm just getting really excited. Mike Bloomfield, OMG. Dude, he
Oh,
just rips it apart.
he does.
And I don't know who's the drummer. Even the drum pattern is.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna mention all the musicians. I didn't break it down by each song, but I know that Al Cooper, Mike Bloomfield, and Harvey Brooks are on the majority of these songs. There's like one other bass player he used, but unlike, and this is going to be a crazy, comparison, but like unlike Ozzy Osbourne, who has like always had a great guitar player,
Yeah.
and he's slow, but it's heavy metal,
I feel
and he
like that's his secret. Like
and he
he
lets
always has.
guitar solo. Randy Rhoads with solo, Zach Wild with solo, like whoever if you're a solo artist, but Dylan doesn't even give him like he gives him like 5 to 10 seconds of like nice little licks, and then he's back with his fifth verse. He's all about verse,
Yeah.
maybe chorus, or just verse, second verse, third verse, fourth.
And again, and Cheech, like I, that's a great point you made, and I think that's an insight that people. I don't know if anyone. I'll be honest, I think no one has made this insight. So
Yeah,
hopefully we're the first ones, but probably not. But I think somebody has noticed that Dylan's backing band is insanely talented, and I
yeah,
guess I don't know if it's maybe Dylan. Of course, Dylan. When it comes to Dylan, I think lyrics come first. I think that's one of the special things about him.
yeah, yeah. That's a
So it
good point.
makes sense. But if he let that band shine, dude.
Yeah, lyrics come before Mike Bloomfield. On this doing ripping a Robert Johnson Delta Blues solo, or Harvey Brooks doing a Lemon Song bass line. Not gonna happen. And then Blonde on Blonde, that's the Hawks,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
band.
And
So
I'll be honest with you, Cheech, on Blonde, I think that's the one rare moment where Dylan kind of let his backing band really get incorporated. I don't know if you would agree or disagree.
I got to go back and analyze it again, But every time I listen to this album, like at least 10 times, and every time when I hear Bloomfield doing those Delta Blues licks, I'm just like, yo, yeah, oh,
Dude,
back
it's
to the verse,
amazing.
But then it's like back to the verse. he's just doing like, I don't even think he played 4 bars. Maybe he played two beats of
No, and it's so and so. When I saw, I want to share two things quick, if you don't mind. Like the first thing was during his infamous London tour, and
yeah
I forgot the state of this. It wasn't the Hammersmith Odeon. I'm sorry, it might have been the Fillmore. I could be making this up.
yeah
I think Fillmore's in the United States. No, but his touring band was the Hawks, and on
yeah.
stage he let them shine. Like,
So
it,
that's what I was thinking. When he toured with Highway 61 Revisited, did Bloomfield go out on the road with him?
No, 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 no. When he was and again, I'm this is from my mind, but from what I understand is when he embarked on the England tour. Now, I'm not sure if this was it had to be after. If it was before, that's brilliant. That means
Yeah,
Dylan had these songs ready. But no, at one point it was the Hawks, which would become the band.
yeah,
Robbie Robertson was the guitarist, and Levon Helm,
yeah. And Rick Danko played bass.
and no, and Levon Doe left. I don't know if
Oh,
you knew that he got pissed off with the whole vibe and how Dylan was antagonizing the audience.
oh
So
yeah,
he
yeah.
says, I don't want to do this. So I forgot his name, so we could probably search it out, but they got another drummer. But the
Uh,
point is, on tour, Dylan really let like the backing band,
so the
shine.
rest of the band stayed. So
Yeah,
for the Hawks, so Rick Danko and
the,
Robbie
the
Rob.
usual, the iconic, which would become the band
Yeah,
many years later. And then one
yeah.
more thing, in the movie A Complete Unknown, right? Which I recommend the movie. Obviously it's not perfect. We talk about like the authenticity about, you
You
know,
know how I feel about that. Yeah,
yeah, not perfect, but I will say, dude, the moment that Dylan comes out in his new kind of like rock, look, and then he has Mike Bloomfield next to him, and you see him just ripping, dude. I'll be honest with you, whew,
yeah. That
like
performance, genius in the Newport Jazz. What song was that playing?
Maggie's Farm,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah,
where he cranks up, and it shows you in the movie. Now again, it's a fictionalized movie, so
yeah,
there's truth, but then there's some drama. He had Bob Dylan request that all amps is amplified to the max to hear Mike Bloomfield's guitar, so he can piss off the audience.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Pete Seeger gets so mad he tries to shut it down, but Bob Dylan's manager won't let it happen because
Now,
he.
mind you, I don't think they had Marshall stacks back then. Like, I'm sure they were
Okay,
like
so,
Fender,
so maybe it was like really it probably was like really loud then, like.
like 100-watt amps, maybe, because like it wasn't until the Who, you know, maybe 66, 67. The Who's the ones that got like orange amps, high
So
watts.
if they were raising the volume, what sound would that have been? You think like was it?
It would give them more of a distorted sound, or more like just more balls, and I wonder what amp he used. I would say like a Fender Twin Reverb, which could get pretty fucking loud, but Dylan wouldn't be known to be loud band compared to the Who, but he was pretty loud with
He
Bloom.
he was the prototype, and by the way, Dylan wanted that. He wanted to. It's funny, and it's funny going back to the England performance, which I'll find out. I can find it out quick, but he takes to his backing band, play really fucking loud, like because he's mad. He's like he always antagonizes his audience, which
Yeah,
you gotta love
wow,
it.
that's what I love about him. Um, so okay, what was
So we started with you left off with the
singles?
uh,
So
singles.
Rolling, and then the Buick 6. Am I saying that right? Buick
Okay,
6.
from a Buick Sick. Yep.
Yeah. Highway 61 Revisited. Queen Jane, a proximity. I love
Approximately.
approximately. Sorry. I love that song.
I
Those were all,
love it's one of my third favorites.
and I got a niece named Jane, but not about her in this song because I had this pretty bad influence, in my opinion. um, so Like a Rolling Stone was a huge album, and it's named after a major highway that connects. I'm going to say it wrong. Duluth, Minnesota, to southern cities like New Orleans, Memphis, and Mississippi. And I'm going to really talk about that in a bit.
I
There's a
can't
lot.
wait because with that, no, when you talk about that, that's gonna unlock the album. Like,
Yeah, there's so much. There's so much on this episode. Okay, so where did the album go? It went to number 3 on Billboard, number 4 in the UK, And like you said, Rolling Stone ranked the song like whatchamacallit, what song was it that you were saying? Like a Rolling Stone,
Mm-hmm.
the fourth greatest song ever written. It was in Rolling Stone magazine.
Yeah.
To be, so I wonder what number one was.
Well, I'll be honest with you. It's funny. I had the original. I think I got it from the library, and at one point, it actually was, and I could be wrong. So, but it was they did a re-edit, like
Yeah.
a reissue, so it went down a little bit. But at one point, it was number one.
Oh wow, wow.
Yeah. So Rolling Stone loves like a Rolling Stone.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So a little history about how he got to write this album. He was exhausted and dissatisfied with the material while he was writing it. He was on tour before the album. He was kind of just ready to quit. He wanted to take a break or quit music. He was drained. He was really tired of the press. People were saying how much they loved him. This is almost like somebody who doesn't want to be famous,
Right.
and and he people were saying they loved him, but he didn't love himself. He was like really down. He didn't have any confidence in himself, or was just kind of you know like just disillusioned with music and life. And this guy was famous already, almost like, I hate to bring him up, but almost like Cobain in a way, like that, where like you're famous, everybody loves you, but you just want to like be left alone and you're not
Mm.
sure, that kind of thing. Make sense,
Yeah, yeah. And that was the thing with him, because at this point he was so massive. Like, dude,
Yeah,
it's crazy how
yeah,
everyone loved him. The Beatles at one point,
yeah. But
idolized him.
the Beatles are idolizing you, the biggest fucking band in the world. They sold more albums than the Bible. Like when John Lennon made that statement, like really, in the '60s, and everybody was crazy religious. Here's
No,
a trivia.
and that's what ends up happening, because Dylan, in response to this, ends up sort of antagonizing his audience, antagonizing the press, antagonizing even artists like John Lennon, maybe Simon Garfunkel.
Yeah,
Because he didn't know how to, because the fame, he got massive. But you're right, he didn't love him. Like, his lyrics always had like a taste of I want to say cynicism. Like
yeah,
he's always kind of like down, and you could tell like he was struggling with this. And you're right, he wanted to quit singing.
yeah. He wanted to give it up. Um, Little trivia. Do you know what Like a Rolling Stone was called? The working title of it?
Ooh, let me think. What was it? This is good.
Long Piece of Vomit.
And that's Dylan naming that track.
Yeah. Then he wrote Like a Rolling Stone, and he got out of his funk, and he started to write Highway 61 Revisited. Like I said, USA platinum, UK platinum, Canada it went gold. It was recorded in 2 blocks. The first recording sessions at Columbia was with Tom Wilson, produced the first section, and then the second section was Bob Johnson, who produced the second part of it. Okay. But now, it's going to get interesting. We might take a break from Bob Dylan for a second to bring up 3 musicians, but you got to talk about the musicians on the album, because without these guys, they make the sound. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
almost like they're so important. So I'm gonna name, there's a lot of different players. Charlie McCoy on guitar, Paul Griffin on piano and organ, Frank Owens on piano, my man Harvey Brooks on bass, Joe Macho Jr. on bass, Bobby Craig was on drums, Sharn Lay was on drums, and then the 3 who I love, Al Cooper, Mike Bloomfield, and I already named them Harvey Brooks. Those are the most important. And then some of the songs like this, my brain is Dissolution Row. Took six takes. Imagine doing that 6 times and it's 11 minutes. You know, he wanted perfection. This is the first pure rock album by Bob Dylan. You know, so he was, because a lot of his stuff is raw. You can hear how raw it is, but he's starting to get more into production and polishing his sound.
This is the and yeah, you're right because and you're right, full rock because Bring It On Back Home had 2 sides, the rock and then the folk.
Yes.
This time he incorporates everything with the exception of the last track, which but it's still polished because he ends up also playing with another musician, and you'll probably talk about it. That gets invited on Desolation Row. So
yeah. No, actually, I didn't. Who was that musician on that one?
if you want, when we get there, we can talk about it. But
Yeah. I didn't mention him, right?
No, he was
Missed that one.
He was he was like a visitor. But when we get there, we'll talk about it if you want.
So the 3 guys who I'm really heavily into, Al Cooper, Mike Bloomfield, and Harvey Brooks. Now, to talk about Al Cooper's just a fucking genius. For those of you who don't know who he is a famous guy known in the late 60s and, you know, in the 60s into the 70s. He played organ and keys. He's a producer. He played with the band Blood, Sweat, and Tears. You know, that was a huge band during this time or a little bit later. He played.
Dude, wait, dude. I was just reading something quick. He produced Skinner's first 3 albums.
I'm getting there. I'm on my
Legendary. Al Cooper is, and the fact that dude. And by the way, just a quick Al Cooper, his organ. I'm pretty sure it's him. Do you know if he played organ on Blonde on Blonde?
That I don't know.
Okay, but his organ on oh man, yeah, okay, yeah.
I know he played organ on just Rolling Stone because you know you
That's
hear
iconic.
Yeah, you can. His organ playing is iconic. It's genius, you know. And he played on "You Can't Always Get What You Want" by the Stones. He played piano on that. He played on, I think, one of my favorite all-time albums in this era, the Super Sessions, with Mike Bloomfield and Harvey Brooks. And to get into Leonard Skinner, he produced the first 3 albums. And the first album is funny because there's a lot of heck, my mouth, Jesus. The first album is funny because, you know, they were young rednecks who got a deal and they were like, we don't want a producer, you know. They respected him, but they pretty much were doing stuff on their own. He did a lot of cool shit on Tuesday's Gone. He did like all those the string arrangements and stuff like that. It's beautiful. Rumor has it, and I got to double check this with my brother-in-law Rob, who was on the show, that he played bass on Tuesday's Gone. He might have. But the story I remember is Simple Man. He didn't want Simple Man on the album, Al Cooper. He didn't think it was a good song. And he was straight up and he said, you know, I think it was Simple Man. I can ask check it, but Ronnie Van Zant, you didn't say that to Ronnie Van Zant. You didn't say we're not going to put this on the song. You know, Skinner produced themselves. Al Cooper was just, you know, he was there. He got a lot. He probably got the best performances out of them, you know. But they said, Ronnie Van Zant said to him, okay, give us about 20 minutes. Go sit in your car. Go have a smoke. Go have a beer. Then you come back out, or we'll come and get you when Simple Man's recorded. And he was like, okay. You know, that's the story I always remember hearing. And Simple Man is like one of my favorite Skinner songs. Imagine leaving that off the first album. You know, it's crazy. He also played with The Who, Jimi Hendrix, Bo Diddley, and 2 of these guys you might know, George Harrison and Ringo Starr. So the guy is like
legendary rock and roller.
A legend. Okay.
And by the way, I searched up. He did play organ on Blonde, and his organ for it's just brilliant. And I don't know if you'll talk about it, but he improvised the organ on Like a Rolling Stone,
Yeah, yep.
which is crazy.
Well, that's what these guys did because they were session players. They just knew how to play, like John Paul Jones and Jimmy Page. They in this era they were doing sessions too. They were not they didn't play with Dylan, but that was a big scene to be a session player before you broke, and went on to being either a rock star or continue to be a session player. Mike Bloomfield, he's what could I say about him? I mean, he's a fucking genius. Fender Telecaster, influenced by Robert Johnson, B.B. King, Albert King, Freddie King. He was also influenced by Otis Rush. Guy was a genius. Famous bands he played with, the Paul Butterfield Blues Band from 1965 to 67. For those who don't know Paul Butterfield, he's a singer and a harmonica player. Check him out. It's really early blues, really great blues. In this band, nobody talks about the Electric Flag. I don't know if you've ever even heard of them. Like they were like one or two albums, but they had the great Buddy Miles who played drums for Hendrix on Band of Gypsies. They had the great Harvey Brooks who played bass, and of course Mike Bloomfield. And I didn't know, and Al Cooper. I didn't know that they played the Monterey Pop Festival, the Electric Flag. I got to look for that on YouTube.
Wow.
Mike Bloomfield also played on Super Sessions, which I'm gonna get into. Tragically, he dies really young. I think he died in the 80s. Died in a car crash. I guess he was partying too much. He crashed, and he died. This is a sad thing. He died on the same day his album came out. Cruising for a Bruisin' came out on the same day he died. Like early 80s, I think it was. 80. So great loss, to the world of guitar. I mean, he's the kind of guy. A lot of people don't know him, but if you like, Peter Green, that style. There was another guitar player, John Mayall. Mike Bloomfield is like that era of playing. So the next guy, sorry getting off the Dylan thing, but these guys
No, good.
they just have to be mentioned. Harvey Brooks, who I have a personal story that I'll tell after this. Harvey Brooks, he also played with Electric Flag. He had a very unique style to his bass playing. Very melodic, very rhythmic. He did very different types of rhythm patterns. He almost had a country vibe when he played the bass, that boom, 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 boom kind of feel. Played with Dylan. He played with the Doors. I think he did, what's the famous Doors song with the great bass line in it where it actually has electric bass in it? I can't
Touch
think.
Me?
Maybe which one?
Touch Me?
Yeah, I think it's Touch Me. I think it's that one. Is that an LA Woman, I think?
Oh no. Riders on the Storm? I like the bass on that song.
Whatever he played, I'm pretty sure he played on all the bass on all the Door stuff, the electric, bass.
Oh, so dude, look, I'm reading it here. So played on songs, so Touch Me, Tell All the People, Wishful Sinful.
Yeah. Yeah,
On Soft Parade. So yeah,
he was definitely electric bass on the Doors. Played with the great Richie Havens, we all know from Woodstock. Peter, Paul, and Mary. Another, I told you that my Temple story. You got me saying from our candid conversation. I have to be careful now. The Temple story about Peter, Paul, and Mary. Played with Electric Flag, and he played on Bitches Brew with Miles Davis.
Man, these
And then
are
a player named Dave Holland who played upright. Miles was out of his mind at that point. So if you're a bass player and you don't know who Harvey Brooks is, go go, listen to him. All the bands that I mentioned. Check out Electric Flag. They need to be known more. They were just a brilliant, almost psychedelic band. Now, this album everybody should own. The Super Sessions, 1968. Al Cooper on keyboards. Mike, I think Al sang as well. Mike Bloomfield on guitar. Stephen Stills on guitar. Barry Goldberg on piano. Harvey Brooks on bass. And Eddie Ho on drums. Now, these are all why they called it the Super Sessions. These were the super session players of the time that everybody went to, with the exception of John Paul Jones and Jimmy Page, Some songs off that album: Season of the Witch, I think I sent that to you. Great album. You Don't Love Me, and Harvey's song. The piano player Barry Goldberg, he played with Mike Bloomfield solo and Electric Flag. And Eddie Ho, who's a great drummer, he played with Donovan, the Monkees, and the Mamas and the Papas. So that's just my, rant and rave about those session guys and how important they are to this album and this sound. And the Super Sessions is a must. You got to check it out. Anything, check out Highway 61 Revisited and the Super Sessions. Okay, so do you want to talk about the Highway? You know anything about the Highway itself?
Well, good, because you did the research and now bounce off because the title of the album, which at first, I remember when I first discovered the album, I read Highway 61 Revisited. What does that mean? It makes no sense. But I thought the album cover was also interesting, which we'll talk about.
Oh, yeah. I got a whole thing.
But for me, for 18-year-old Manny, I was like, Highway 61 Revisited, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I do like the song Like a Rolling Stone, so.
Yeah. So basically, it stretches from Canada to Minnesota, where Dylan was born, and it runs along the Mississippi River, which is near Tennessee, New Orleans, and Mississippi. Now, all these artists that he worshipped, that's where they're from. Muddy Waters, Son House, Elvis, Charlie Patton. I don't know if I ever brought him up on the show. He was like a little bit before Robert Johnson, and he's in the Delta blues style. Betsy Smith. And here's the funny thing. The rumor has it Robert Johnson sold his soul on Route 49, which is on Highway 61.
Well, so just pause right there. Just that fact alone, and you're going to get into this, but that's so important because, so first of all, you have to wonder why did Dylan, like how we explored, why is the album title Bring It All Back Home, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned it's to bring it back to that one chord, right? That one, and that makes sense. And also to bring it, so Dylan's always interesting. He always wants to bring it back home. It's sort of like reminding you, let's bring it to where it started. Dylan once again does this again. And I love how you mentioned the Robert Johnson story because, the rumor is that, and the reason why I mentioned this is because, and if you don't mind, we'll talk about the song coming up, but Highway 61 Revisited, which is one of the songs on the album, just first, just to review what you just said, is Route 49 was where Robert Johnson sold his soul to the devil at the highway's crossroads.
Yeah.
So he had a choice, and at that crossroads, I guess he decides to, I'll keep going on Highway 61. But what's really interesting is one of the best lines in Highway 61 Revisited is he says, "Yeah, God said to Abraham, kill me a son. Abe said, man, you must be putting me on. God said, no. Abe said, what? God said, you can do whatever you want, babe, but next time you see me coming, you better run. God said, where do you want this killing done? Out on Highway 61. Like, dude, and then you mix that story in. Oh, man.
And
brilliant.
The Robert Johnson, I was just reading articles like that. The legend is he sold the soul, but the story is we talked about this on a couple other shows, a man named Ike Zimmerman, and I sent you Ike Zimmerman his Wikipedia. I don't know if you
It's funny we mentioned it on one of the Zeppelin episodes with Joe. So
Yeah.
we're bringing it back home a little bit.
Ike Zimmerman used to practice in the cemetery near the crossroad. And everybody would hear guitar, like blues coming out of there, and they thought it was the devil. So supposedly Robert Johnson took lessons from Ike Zimmerman, and he was the devil. But, that's how the legend started, from that guitar coming out of the cemetery. Who is that? That's got to be Satan, But it was a guy, Ike Zimmerman, And if I remember watching documentaries, and they would ask these old blues guys like Johnny Shines and Honey Boy Edwards, so did you sell your soul to the devil too? And they'd be like, boy, watch your mouth. Watch your mouth. Like they didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to, they get pissed.
Dude, I'll be honest with you. I think just so it's funny how rock and roll is associated with Satan and the devil's music. So there's that problem too, because a lot of the African Americans and people who were obviously black living down there, they were Christians. So when Robert Johnson came on the scene,
even were Baptists, very religious people. Yeah.
And when they catch him playing with Ike Zimmerman, they're like, "What are you doing, boy? Like, playing the devil's music?"
Yeah, it's crazy,
Now, wait, do you believe now? Gee, let's establish this on this episode. Do you think Robert Johnson sold his soul to the devil?
Oh God, the mystical part in me, the fantasy, I want to say yes. I've researched people, the concept. I read books like, on people signing their soul to the devil, whether they're people on Wall Street, whether they're presidents of the United States.
Well, I will say, just to add one more thing before you respond, is take a detour in religion for like 10 seconds, but you can make a deal with the devil. It's actually a thing.
I mean, I think deep down I believe it, because I also believe in exorcisms. I believe you can be possessed by Satan. I believe that 100%. So if you could be possessed by a demon, you can make a deal with the devil,
Right.
And that was always the joke, when we were young, like, oh, we got to find Old Scratch, we call him Old Scratch. We got to shoot up that deal. We got to get that deal going. But it's just, I like the idea of legends, whether they're true or not. You know what I mean? Like they said, Zeppelin made it with the devil. That was and there's always a sacrifice when you make a deal with the devil, because you either die young, and or something bad happens. Because and you got to see the movie Crossroads with Ralph Macchio. It's like the Karate Kid version of him as a guitar player, and it's all about what we're talking about. They take the influence of a real musician named Willie Brown, who did exist,
right?
Who's supposed to sold the soul to the devil and stuff. So yeah, I guess I believe it. I believe it. Would I have done it if I had the chance? Fuck yeah. Maybe I did. I don't know.
Well, you made it past 27. So, and by the way, Robert Johnson, didn't he start the 27 Club?
I think he did die at 27. Yeah, and there's he's like Mozart. Like there's a mystery of his death. Like they don't know if he was poisoned, because
that's right.
He was banging all the ladies and stuff, and married women. Yeah, because he was a regular dude who was nothing. Hung out with Ike Zimmerman in the cemetery for six months, or the devil, or maybe Ike Zimmerman knew the devil or was the devil. Came back looking like he's the coolest of them, the way he looks with the top hat.
Well, it's funny. I was watching, and this is so worth noting, because I was watching one of the documentaries that talked about this, and one of the singers that knew he was getting an interview, right? It was like an interview in the 80s.
Yeah.
And they knew Robert Johnson. He was like the first one. He was an awful player, according to him.
Horrible.
He was badly dressed. Like he was okay. Singing wise, he was all right.
He didn't
no, he was broke. He was trying to marry somebody, but it was failure upon failure. Yeah. So one day he shows up, and I forgot the place called. They talk about it, He
was a
shows up.
gin joint. You know, they used to call him the
Yeah,
juke. Juke.
gin joint.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep. He shows up with a hat, a tailored suit, looking
yeah,
sharp, and says, "Hey, can you guys give me that guitar?" Goes on stage, tunes it, and then he describes what he heard was like
yeah.
what? Like
And that's real. That did happen. That's a real documented thing. I mean, people didn't have cell phones back then. Imagine if they did. You know what I mean? Like that was written down and documented. And there's a couple pictures of him. There's only 2 pictures of Robert Johnson. You know.
and both are haunting.
Yeah, and there was a third one that supposedly Robert Plant identified as Robert Johnson. They had for some reason they had Plant on this blues committee, and they asked him if because he was really into Robert Johnson and studied a lot of his
That's
stuff.
amazing.
Yeah. So anyway, check out Robert Johnson. Get his box set. Listen to his box set, man, and shut the lights in your room, and you will be scared shitless. That
Yeah,
shit is
it's like if you listen to that music by yourself, there's something haunting about it.
like the
I
devil in the room with him, like it was him and
you
John,
know what that's what it sounds like. It sounds like someone else is like with him.
yeah. Well,
But it's
John Hamm
weird.
recorded him, but it almost, in my mind, it's almost like the devil, or old, I don't like to say the devil, like Old Scratch, Legba. They call him Legba, you know, and so Legba would be there, and in my mind, Legba's there, like maybe like saying, "Yeah, good job, you're gonna make it, and yeah, you're gonna die in a couple of years because you sold your soul to the devil." But
So
music,
and it's no and again, just to bring it all back home, it's no coincidence that the album is titled Highway 61 Revisited. And if you look at the lyrics of the title track song,
yeah.
there's a religious and violent and it's
Oh,
weird.
dang.
So it,
Jack the Ripper. What else is in that? Oh God, there's one I really thought was funny. Was it Jack the Ripper in a priest outfit or something, dressed as a priest? Or, I don't know, some absurdity. I forget. I guess when we get to it, we could analyze it. But so all right, long episode. So we're in it an hour already, and we're just getting to the first song.
I wonder if we should do like a part 1 and 2.
We might have to because this might
We
go.
might. Well, tell you what. So we'll try to end at what do you like? Want to say one more hour and then
Yeah,
part 1,
I
and then
doubt
part 2.
through all this in an hour.
No, there's no way. We would need. This might be a 5-hour episode, but
Yeah. So I think for me, I'm a little bit more confident in my analyzation of Bob Dylan. Thanks to you, I learned a lot on how to analyze Bob Dylan. I was taking the Neil Peart in the Steve Harris approach, not this.
no, and not even a plant approach, dude. He's
Oh yeah.
different.
Then I took the Plant approach, and I was kind of like, Plant gets absurd. There's a little weirdness in Plant's lyrics. Will be, I love you, I love you, I love you. Oh, hi, Gollum. You know what I mean? Like,
You know
that
what it is?
kind
I
of,
don't think it's absurd. I think it's surreal. I think
yeah,
that's the better word. Where he loves. He's like, I'm gonna love about a fair maiden, but I'm gonna add Gollum reference
yeah,
later.
or been a long time since I rock and roll. Been a long time since I did the stroll. Breaking vows that just don't work right, and then he goes back. Like, okay, let's go back.
Or singing about the levee breaking, over
Yeah,
like 5 minutes.
yeah. So, all geniuses though. All those writers, Plant, Pert, Harris, like a Rolling Stone. So let's see if I got better. Let's see if I got
So
better.
this is the first track. We're dropping the needle.
Yep, here we go. So he was drained and tired. Then he wrote this song. He was like in a funk, and he was like gonna maybe not do an album. So it has a cynical sound, and you brought that up. Cynical. In his voice. His voice is cynical. How does it feel? That's the key words to listen for in this song. And to me, it's his transformation from folk to this album and being rocking out. And I think, you know, that's the key line, and that's the whole meaning of this song. And then I have, it can also be about a girl who was once rich but now has nothing and she's living in the streets. How does it feel? That's another interpretation I got. I don't know how you feel. How does it feel, Manny, about what I just said?
But you know, how does it feel? Dude, I think you got, so first of all, this song is incredibly, like all Dylan's lyrics, it's like you listen to it and you're like, wait, what is he singing about? I don't understand.
Yeah.
And then you look at him lyrically, he's you know, he's saying, just to quote, when he says, "Oh, you never turn around to see the frowns on the jugglers and the clowns when they did all the tricks for you. Like you never understood that it ain't no good." So you're thinking, what is he talking about? But I think you got it. I think this is, I always thought that this song was singing for himself when he transformed from the folk icon that he was to a Rolling Stone.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And so he says, and so and you're right, one of the key lines and one of the keys, right? The key to understanding the song is, how does it feel? How does it feel to be without a home and like a complete unknown? Because I think Dylan always felt like a complete unknown to himself. And then he says, like a rolling stone. So that image also, like a rolling stone, it's not a coincidence that, you know, Muddy Waters uses it. Led Zeppelin quotes it in Stairway to Heaven. And obviously the UK band, the Rolling Stones, also mentioned it. So I think you got it. And there's just something cynical about it. And I love how you said the women too. I've heard somewhere that it's been taken sometimes also as a love song, but not really a love song, but a very cynical love song.
Yeah.
So, and one of the best lines, I don't know how you would feel about this, but one of my favorite lines is, princess on a steeple and all the pretty people, they're all drinking, thinking that they've got it made, exchanging all precious gifts, but you better take your diamond ring, you better pawn it, babe. So, and he says, you used to be so amused at Napoleon and rags. And he always mentions Napoleon. Right? I think that's kind of like artsy, but at Napoleon and rags and the language that he used, go to him, he calls you, you can't refuse. When you ain't got nothing, you got nothing to lose. You're invisible now. You've got no secrets to conceal. And then he says, oh, how does it feel? How does it feel? So it could also be taken a cynical love song, like something where, what is that love? We talked about in other episodes, like, you know, your different kinds of, you know, loves, and maybe it's music. Maybe it's the music scene.
Maybe. It could be. So, yeah, man. So I think I did good on that one, you know.
That was pretty good. And it's sort of, I don't know, would you say it's an anthem?
It's a total anthem.
So, and let me follow up question. So what would it be an anthem to?
The 60s. When you hear that song, you think of the 60s. I do.
You know, I know, exactly.
I think of myself as a little kid in the 70s, but it has that 60s feel, that 60s sound. And when I'm going to get to the music now, like, so I would definitely think it's an anthem. It's probably one of the biggest anthems of the 60s.
Yeah.
No? I mean,
now, you know how My Generation by The Who was an anthem as well, right? One of the iconic anthems of the generation of the 60s.
A hard rock anthem.
Right, hard rock anthem. Now, this one, I agree, 60s anthem, but you know what's really odd about this? That when you analyze the lyrics, they're cynical, though. And one of my other theories, that like I would write a 50-page thesis on this, not on some, I always argue this Dylan's also indictment of like the hippies. And like 60s culture. So it's weird. It sounds like, you're right, anthemic 60s song. But that's what's so great about Dylan. He's able also to subvert at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he says here, for example, one of my favorite lines is, and by the way, he's also criticizing the intellectuals in the song too, where he says here, you know, you've gone to the finest school, all right, Miss Lonely, but you know you only get used to get juiced in it. Nobody's ever taught you how to live out on the street. and now you're gonna have to get used to it because you remember a lot of hippies were children of intellectuals.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's
so
true.
he's kind of like indicting them, saying, like
Knocking
you
it.
you guys don't know what it means to be poor, like So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
always thought it's interesting. I love Dylan for that reason. He subverts.
Yeah.
Anthem creates one of the greatest anthems of the '60s,
Oh yeah,
and then subverts.
definitely. Musically, my favorite part is the organ.
Oh yeah, I think Al Cooper, man. Imagine that. No, Cheech, imagine that organ wasn't there.
It would be more of a folky song. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? No, it's not. It's a mid-tempo song. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to hear it in my head, and that organ just is like, damn. You hear it in the back.
it's great, and it comes in and also the way Al Cooper comes in at certain parts. And by the way, what do you think of that opening snare drum in the beginning?
Well, that happens a lot in this album. That's an ongoing thing.
Wait,
That's
correct me. That's a snare drum, right? That
yeah,
when he goes like,
yeah. Yeah, that's like instead of counting off 1, 2, 3, 4, just one. Damn, you go into the song. So yeah, that's definitely a key thing. Um, One thing I'm gonna bring up a lot on this album is the chord progressions. They're so amazing. The usage of chords and about like I mentioned like A minor, G, F before. Like ending a Stairway to Heaven or Beethoven. That would
and
be
Cheech, and what is Dylan playing the chords on? What kind of guitar?
acoustic.
And that's interesting, right? So he kind of brings it. You would think it's electric, but
Yeah,
matter of fact, he's just playing. And you're right, dude. I don't know how Dylan does it. And you're the musician. The fact that he's the master of the chord progressions,
yeah,
like
yeah.
simple but I can't explain it.
Folk chords are like old, like Americana chords. They go back to like Stephen Foster. People like that. So he takes that tradition of those chords, dominant sevenths, stuff like that. He's not playing jazz, flat 9, sharp 11 upper extension chords. He's keeping it pretty simple. He's doing a lot of dominant sevenths, a lot of minor chords, and then the whole band's following it to give a full sound, you know. So and it's always repetitive, He always has a repetitive thing. And the
Yeah,
guitar,
once he masters, I noticed like once he masters a certain so he'll have the basic, and again, I'm not music, you would know more than this, but right, like basic chord structure and lyric structure, and just keep
yeah,
repeating it. And it
yeah,
goes on for 6 minutes. And one thing I want to add too, dude, like um during the sessions they were pretty chaotic. I don't know if you have anything about that, like because Dylan is not a musician, and like so he'll tell the band, all right guys, this is the song, go
yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, it's to match the chords to the melody, or he would have to show them the chords. Yeah, it's a hard thing to do. You have to have a good ear, and Al Cooper, he did that, or whoever great music. Dylan always had great musicians backing him up, so
Yeah.
he needed that to help him find his way a little bit, in my opinion. I mean, he could do it with just an acoustic guitar,
And
definitely,
harmonica.
and a harmonica, but having that band is definitely helping him. Great clean guitar tone, steady drums, and iconic harmonica. The harmonica
Yeah.
is just
Yeah. The harmonica sound. Yeah.
not the greatest harmonica player, but it's Dylan. He's not John Popper from Blues Traveler or Robert Plant
No.
or Sonny Boy Williamson, but he can play harmonica. It's like it's sloppy, but it has that unique, that
Well, it's
unique.
funny because so you're the musician, so you probably seen or have experience with harmonica.
It
I,
was
I'm not the one to I'm not the one to judge Dylan's harmonica playing. I always thought it's so brilliant. Like it adds sort of like a touch to his music, and we've covered on Bring It All Back Home his harmonic flourishes, but I always thought it sounded amazing.
he is a sloppiness to it, but it works. Is he Sonny Boy Williamson? Or these blues guys? No. Is he John Popper from Blues Traveler? No. One of my favorite harmonica solos, I think it's in Piano Man by Billy Joel. Is that, there's a harmonica solo in there?
There is.
It
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
like, stuff like that when it pops out of nowhere. And that's a beautiful harmonica solo. He makes that harmonica melodic, Billy Joel in Piano Man. Robert Plant was real aggressive. Like Sonny Boy Williams, like Nobody's Fault But Mine. He's really blowing hard into it. Dylan was very like mid tempo. He would blow into it, not too heavy, not too soft. So I don't play harmonica, but he had a unique technique with it. I love harmonica. I played with harmonica players. There was a guy in Cactus, a great blues rock band. I forget his name. He's a great harmonica player, blues rock harmonica player. So harmonica works great with rock. It's such an amazing sound. And Dylan is Dylan on harmonica. It's like saying certain guitar players that we brought up that like Neil Young. He plays guitar in his solos. He's not Eddie Van Halen, but they make sense. They're really good. They're really good solos.
Oh, and by the way, Neil Young and Bruce Springsteen, I think, copied Dylan in his harmonica playing style. Because have you ever seen Neil Young or Bruce Springsteen play the harmonica? It almost copying Dylan, which is crazy.
Neil Young, especially Neil Young.
Neil Young and early Springsteen, by the way, too.
Yeah. I'm hearing
before the E Street Band.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I think Dylan made. You know what I mean? I think he made it popular. Did I freeze up? Did somebody just call me?
You did. Repeat. Yeah. Are you back in?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay, just repeat your last 10 seconds. It froze up.
I think Dylan made harmonica popular. It made a lot of other bands want to apply a harmonica into their playing. Like Led Zeppelin and Neil Young and stuff like that. So, all right. And we may have to do a part 2 to this. I think.
I think it's for sure because there's no way.
I'm free tomorrow, so we could.
Let's do it. Let's wrap it up tomorrow.
Yeah,
we'll go for 30 more minutes. I will, and it's funny we even talk about Mrs. Doubtfire leaving. So we might have to come up with a new, nickname for this. Hey, Mr. Jones.
She's not. Yeah, she's not on Riverside. So Tombstone Blues. Okay.
And by the way, before you talk about the song, dude, I think this is my favorite track on the. I know this is gonna be weird, but I obviously like Rolling Stone. Love that song to death. But Tombstone Blues, this song has something that I love so much, and it's one of those I'll keep repeating. I'll keep replaying, like instead of replaying, like a Rolling Stone or Queen Jane Approximately, both amazing songs.
Oh yeah,
I'll keep replaying Tombstone Blues. So one of my favorites.
It's amazing. So all right, you tell me what you think. How I did on this one. I think it's a reference to the Vietnam War and Lyndon B. Johnson. I couldn't get much more from it.
So where did you get? That's interesting. So wait, say it again. You think it was
a reference to the Vietnam War and the president, Lyndon B. Johnson. And it took 12 takes to make this song, to get it. It's a doom. It has like a morbidness to it, I mean, I really couldn't get a lot. That's my take on it.
Oh wow. So Lyndon B. Johnson. That's interesting how you saw that. See, I don't see that.
Okay, but do you see the Vietnam War?
No, Vietnam. Okay, so obviously, so let me actually backtrack. So there might be Lyndon B. Johnson, but it's so hidden in these morbid, surreal lyrics that I would have to see who exactly he would be. But Vietnam War for sure.
Yeah.
But I always thought, first of all, just from the title track of the song. Do you have anything else like lyrically?
No, that's all I could came up. That's all
Do,
that came
do
up.
you have your own interpretation?
That's it. That it's about the Vietnam War.
That's, out of curiosity, Bobby, has he listened to the song? You guys should cover the song.
We should. We should. We've
Pod-
talked
pod-
about. Yeah, we talked about doing some, some Bob Dylan,
I
but
think
this would
Tombstones would be a good sound.
think it'd be a great one.
But Tombstone Blues, it's interesting because this song is actually very difficult to sort of like unlike Pert, for
Yeah.
example, or Lennon McCartney. You really gotta kind of think about some of these references because they're so
Oh yeah.
poetic. But
Oh, definitely.
one of the things, yeah, dude. So one of the things is the Vietnam War, right? The situation in
Yeah.
Lyndon B. Johnson's presidency in America. So, but I always saw the song is strange because I always saw it as not an anthem, but him describing poverty, like but extreme poverty. And let me explain because you I don't know if you ever seen like a homeless shelter or been out in
Yeah.
the
Sure. Yeah.
so look at this. Near the homeless streets, you would meet someone that would someone with schizophrenia who would claim that he's John the Baptist. So he would say here, John the Baptist, after torturing a thief, looks up at his hero, the commander in chief, which might be another homeless, crazy person, saying, "Tell me, great hero, but please make it brief. Is there a hole for me to get sick in?" The commander in chief answered him while chasing a fly, saying death to all those who would whimper and cry. And dropping a barbell, he points to the sky, saying, "The sun's not yellow, it's chicken." So I always thought that's an exchange between two crazy homeless people, but at the same time,
Mm.
that's the American politics.
Right. Right.
So
And there's other absurdities in here too, like Ma Rainey and Beethoven.
yeah, yeah. And
Full
by the way, Jack the
Revere.
Ripper gets mentioned again.
Jack the Ripper, who sits in the Chamber of
So
Commerce.
so see so Dylan. Now I'm not sure exactly.
Is that political? That could be political.
I'll be honest with you, it does sound political. And one of the interesting things that I love about Dylan is that, again, I don't think he grew up in poverty, but he gets it because
Yeah.
he says here, one of my favorite choruses of all time is, "Mama's in the factory, she ain't got no shoes. Daddy's in the alley, he's looking for the fuse, and I'm in the kitchen with the Tombstone Blues." Now, what could that mean? This guy maybe is starving to death, about to commit
Or his
suicide,
parents were never home.
or parents are never home,
Yeah.
and
That's an oddity in the Christ. He would have been that would have been in the 50s or like late 40s. Usually the wife stayed home and the husband worked. That was
and you know what's funny, but that's what I'm telling you, like the lyrics, that's actually, I was going to mention that the fact that mama's in the factory and she's working in these awful conditions with no shoes, by the way. And then
yeah.
I don't know how you feel about this line, "Daddy's in the alley looking for the fuse." What do you think about that? Like, what do you think that could be?
Hmm. You're looking for another woman in an alley, a hooker.
So see, I thought maybe a drug, he's a drug addict,
Okay.
so that's what
And
I thought. So
I think prostitution and drugs come up a lot in this album, in my opinion, on some of these lyrics.
oh, 100%. Like, I'll be honest
So
with you, that's what I'm saying. Dylan, I don't know. Again, I don't think he grew up poor, but I think what this song is, he's, again, politically, yes, it's a political song, and he has a lot of really interesting lines. Like, look at this one: "The geometry of innocent flesh on the bone." That's most likely about sending young men to die in Vietnam War. "Causes Galileo's maths book to get thrown. A
yeah.
Delilah who's sitting worthlessly alone," which Delilah, Samson, and Delilah, which is a reference to that.
Right. There's a lot of biblical references in
Dude,
this.
that's one of the reasons why I love Dylan. And then he says here, "But the tears on her cheeks are from laughter. I wish I could give Brother Bill his great thrill. I've set him in chains at the top of the hill." And look at this line: "Send them out for some pillars and Cecil B. DeMille, the guy who directed the Ten Commandments. He could die.
Wow.
He could die happily ever after." And then he mentions, going back, "Mama's in the factory, she ain't got no shoes. Daddy's in the alley, he's looking for the fuse, and I'm in the kitchen with the Tombstone Blues." So,
Yeah.
so yeah, he could be abandoned. Is he contemplating his suicide? Dude, it's a
Yeah.
dark song, and
It,
that's lyrically, and it's difficult to decipher. I think it's, like, in my opinion, I think it's not an anthem, but it's a reflection on sort of like poverty and like seeing like this versus that.
Yeah.
And just starting off the song, I don't know how you feel about this lines, but well, the sweet pretty things are in bed on bed now, of course. I don't know who he's talking about there. City fathers are trying to endorse the reincarnation of Paul Revere's horse.
Yeah.
Paul
Yeah.
Revere was the one that warned everybody the British are coming.
Yeah.
But the town has no need to be nervous. The ghost of Belle Star, she hands down her wits to Jezebel the nun. She violently knits. I love like the poetry here. A
Yeah.
bald wig for Jack the Ripper, who sits at the head of the Chamber of Commerce. And again, Dylan then returns it. Mama's in the factory. She ain't got no shoes. Daddy's in the alley. He's looking for the fuse, which could be drugs or a prostitute. And I'm in the kitchen. I'm so hungry with the Tombstone Blues. He's about to die. So, great song. I always see it like a poverty anthem.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. You know, and I guess I just, I just saw the Vietnam thing, and then
No,
I just,
but it's in there. And Lyndon B. Johnson
yeah,
could be the Jack the Ripper because remember he's sending people to their deaths. He's
Jack.
and I think he was balding.
Yep, he
So
was, he was.
so I think there we go. And he's the
Yeah,
head of the Chamber of Commerce again. Dylan's so sneaky,
yeah,
and the pointy and this is a great tune because kind of shows you again. I don't know how you feel about this when presidents invest in really expensive wars and meanwhile there are people starving who got no shoes,
yep,
dads who are abandoning their children. Dylan says looking for the fuse, which again could be the problems with prostitution or
oh
drug
yeah,
abuse. And then and who knows how old our singer is. He's at the kitchen with the Tombstone Blues. He could be a kid.
exactly.
It's kind of like a great meditation on poverty and sort of not hypocrisy, but what do we do about this?
Yeah.
And the end sort of kind of sad. It doesn't really give you a good.
No, a lot of these
There's a
songs are
darkness to them.
very sad.
What do you think about that? Also, that great title, Tombstone Blues.
Well, that goes back to, didn't Booker White have a song, Tombstone Blues or something?
You be the expert.
I think Booker White had something to do with the song called the Tombstone Blues or something. Because I did a Booker White song that has something to do with Tombstone. So it's definitely an idea of the old blues singers, the Delta guys.
Oh no! And one more point, and I'll shut up about the song. Dude, this song, remove the instrumentation, which hopefully you're going to talk about the music soon. Remove that, and you know how I said that when the levee breaks by, and this is in my personal opinion, you can disagree out there, but I think these songs are the perfection of the themes of the blues, like
Oh yeah,
the
oh yeah,
Tombstone Blues, because the blues is it has these great lines and then a repetitive chorus,
oh
and
yeah.
so to drive home the point that
Mm-hmm.
mama's in the factory, she ain't got no shoes. You know how they kind of sing like daddy's in the alley, he's looking for the fuse, and now I'm in the kid, and then you do wow, and then you do like the guitar. It's
And it's interesting because this has a chorus. Some of the songs don't have a chorus. They're
I,
just 7
this
verses.
is one of the rare songs that have a chorus. Yeah.
Yeah, in a Rolling Stone, like a Rolling Stone, that's named after it, like Tombstone Blues, like a Rolling Stone. Um, Anything else you want to? So that was a good sum up of the song. I mean, there's so much going on.
No, there's a lot going on, and again, I'm not a poet. I'm more into like philosophy, but I do love this song because it is something. I don't know if you have this ability when you listen to music. I can feel the soul of it. Like
Oh, me too.
I
Oh,
so when I
definitely.
listen to this song, I love it, but for some reason, like I relate to it. There's something really dark and sad. If that
Yeah.
makes sense. It doesn't sound sad. And you're gonna talk
No.
about it musically, so I'll let you. Then I'll throw back to you.
Yeah.
Um, it doesn't sound sad musically, but remove that, and the line is devastating. Again, just gonna repeat it one more time. Mama's in the factory, she ain't got no shoes, and you're right. The father should be working, but it's the woman.
Yeah.
Daddy's in the alley. Now think about alleyways, disgusting, grimy,
Mm-hmm.
garbage, dark, seedy,
Rugs.
drugs, prostitutes, right?
Yeah.
Crime. And then this poor, and again, I think I always felt like it was a kid. I'm in the kitchen with the Tombstone Blues. He's about to die of starvation, which
Yeah.
I just,
It's
Dylan is
pop.
brilliant.
Yeah, it's total brilliant. You broke it down really, really good, and it blends everything. We said politics, and Jack the Ripper being Johnson. You know,
I think that's him.
I,
I'm,
I I think we got it. I would love to sit down with Dylan and just
oh,
go. Anyone ever?
dude,
Anyone ever like really sat and analyzed it with him?
I'll be honest with you, Dylan is so antagonistic in interviews. He'd be like, man, I don't know what that song's about. I wrote it when I was young. Like he does this thing where he won't give you the answer.
Yeah,
Like he's so cryptic.
yeah,
Have you seen the 60-minute interview with him? The 60 minutes?
yeah.
You saw how he's kind of like, man, he was reflecting on when he was writing It's All Right, Mom, Only Bleeding. He's like, man, I can't do that again. I was 20 at the time, and definitely like. And then the guys asked him, well, "What is the song about?"
Yeah, and he wouldn't give him an answer.
He wouldn't give it to him.
That Tom Brokaw, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah. I remember that interview. Yeah. Wow. So you want to get on to the music?
yeah, music. And before you, I consider this proto punk. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Fast tempo. That's the first thing I have on my list. Great drums, and the drums are in perfect time. They're just like,
Incredible.
you know, um, uh, the strumming is amazing.
Yeah,
It's perfect. I like how he's singing, and there's guitar licks by Bloomfield underneath,
legendary Bloomfield,
going
and
back and forth. Call and response. The bass line is very country. It has a
kind
bump, 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 bump. That fast
of
kind
like
of
Johnny Cash vibe.
exactly. Yeah. It has that uh great, amazing guitar solo. Those little quick little runs that he does. But my only problem is it should be longer.
I
And
know. I know. By the way, I
that
wouldn't mind if the song went for 10 minutes. Like, this is the one rare song I wish Bloomfield would just rip out. You know how we saw the live performance at Maggie's Farm?
Yeah, like why do you let him rip live, but in the studio he made him hold back? You know what I mean? So like it's the one thing that gets me about this album. I wish there was more organ solos, like John Paul Jones, Since I've Been Loving You kind of shit, and Bloomfield soloing.
Well, if I can, Mr. Joe Silkman made um, one of the best insights saying that Jimmy Page knew how to get the best out of John Paul Jones and John Bonham. See, he knew how to do it.
Yeah,
Maybe Dylan didn't through no
yeah,
fault of his own, because again, I think it's always the lyrics first, the poetry.
and that's so true and so important. Yeah,
And the producer, which was who was the producer that you mentioned? It was Johnston, so Bob Johnston and
yeah,
the famous Tom Wilson.
yeah.
Um, Obviously, they want to give Dylan the spotlight, right? So they don't really because the rest of the players were just session players.
Yeah, that's true. That's
So
true. But you still want more. I
that's
want
no, and
more.
that's the mistake. If there was somebody like a Jimmy Page, you would have said, Dylan, man, listen,
Yeah.
we need to crack. We need
But
to.
but then it wouldn't fit. Then it wouldn't be Dylan. It
That's
wouldn't.
the thing. That's the thing. So
That,
Dylan is Dylan for that reason, and I
yeah.
totally get what you mean. I wish the Bloomfield solos were a little longer.
Yeah. Why don't we do this one and then we'll continue part two
Sounds good.
like I said, I'm available tomorrow if you're good.
Yeah, sounds good to me, man.
Because after this is no, I thought it was Mr. Jones. Okay. So it takes a lot to laugh. It takes a train to cry.
Great titles. By the way, the titles of these songs are so great.
Such a weird, like, oh my God, So this is interesting. It's made up of old blues songs combined together. So they're like old Delta blues songs, like
Mm.
combination. Now you're gonna laugh at what I came up with. I don't know. Being on a train, obviously. He's on a train and he seems like he's sexually frustrated. And he says, I'll be your lover, but I won't be your boss. And it's that, poetry form to the words. I made it simple because, like, I don't know where to. I'm trying, you could break it down to a million things, but like that's what I got out of it. How do you feel about that?
Dude, I think this is well, just from just from the title track. It takes a lot to laugh. It takes a train to cry,
Yeah,
which I love that train imagery. I think there's something so poetic about it,
yeah,
um and just some of the when you look at the lyrics, it's classic. Yeah, it's classic blues, like sexual overtones,
yeah, yeah.
and you can tell this guy's frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because look what he says there. Well, I want to be your lover, baby. I don't want to be your boss, and I can't help if this train gets lost. Like
Yeah.
the
So,
innuendo in there. I mean, I don't even know where to come at this. And I love how you said this was a mix of, that's classic blues, full of
yeah.
sexual innuendo. Dude, the word rock and roll is a euphemism for sex.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
So it's not so it's great. It's great how Dylan includes this. And yeah, I think you
Yeah.
got it quite simply.
In a simple, kind of thing. I mean, you could go over some more lyrics if you want, but I don't know if you
No,
see any.
I think that's the song. I think you said it right. It's a dude who is sexually frustrated. The imagery is sexual too.
Yep.
Um, he and just if you look at this, some of the lyrics here. Don't the moon look good, mama, shining down through the trees? Don't coast the chap look good, baby, sitting on his madman's knees?
Yeah.
And also, he says here, I've been up all night, baby, leaning on the windowsill. Like, there's definitely some imagery here.
Yeah. Definitely. And it's made up of old blues songs. I couldn't find the blues songs, but they didn't say when I did my research, but it's definitely like Delta blues influenced. So he might have stole some lyrics from the old guys.
Dude, I don't know, dude, in this line, and I ride on a mail train, baby, can't buy no thrill. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm thinking mail train, baby. Like, he's delivering something. I'm not going to get into detail. I'm just like, and he's saying I can't get a thrill out of this.
yeah. So he's frustrated. He's sexually frustrated, I
Something's
think.
wrong. Yeah, and by the way, fun fact, just read Steely Dan, their debut album "Can't Buy a Thrill." They took it from this song.
Oh wow, wow. So Steely Dan was listening to Bob Dylan, like
The legendary Steely Dan.
prog jazz rock group
Love Steely Dan.
Asia, one of the best albums. And it's poetry. It's
Yeah,
like that
classic
word.
blues lyrics.
Yeah, music down home. Blues. Great piano. I
Yeah,
love the piano in it. Once again, great chord progressions, great dynamics, and a great build up. You know that build up part in the song where
yeah,
they kind of build it up.
yeah. It's really a great build up. I love the
And
beginning of it too. Like
yeah, yeah,
classic blues. Like Dylan mastered it.
goes right into it, and then it goes into the great his great harmonica
Yeah.
solo. So we've got we're probably at where are we with time? Like we're at
We're nearing the 2 hour mark.
okay. Um, so we have maybe we could finish the Buick 6. We could start. You want to start that tomorrow, or you want to finish that one now? You get it.
Let's stop. I think well, actually, let's do from Buick 6 because
Okay.
I love this song too.
Now this comes from an old blues song.
Oh
So
man, by Robert Johnson. Yeah.
he's taken a lot. He's taken a lot from the old blues, Milk Cow Blues. Famous
Well,
Robert.
again, which highway is he revisiting?
Exactly. That's why it's all coming up. Now, this is about just to sum it up, a sugar mama. I think a woman who takes care of him, gives him what he needs for his life. Says she walks like Bo Diddley.
I know, dude. I love that line so much. Like, if anyone's listening to Bo Diddley, it's like
Yeah,
I
and
love it.
she has a 410 loaded, and to me, that's a gun. It's a gun. So she walks like Bo Diddley. She gives him what she wants. She has a gun, and there's a rhyme scheme in there. There's like that rhyme scheme. Um. So
And by the way, I'm pretty sure Buicks are expensive cars, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Back then they were. Yeah. See, I didn't get the car.
So I kind of picked that up, but I think you're right. It definitely is another um another like blues woman song, which is really good.
It's about a woman who gives him what he needs.
Right,
She
right,
cares, but she's probably a hard ass because she carries a gun
right.
and she walks like Bo Diddley. I mean, so I don't know what that means. But I think it's like this hard ass woman who likes him and takes care of him. Maybe she gives him money, gives him what he wants sexually. Bought him a Buick. I don't know.
And also maybe and who knows? I always saw when I look at the lyrics from a Buick Six, which is interesting, right? Like from a Buick Six, but I got this graveyard woman, so it's a woman that um I always saw dangerous, right? Like, she keeps my kid, but my soulful mama, she keeps me hid. And again, another drug thing too, I noticed. She's a junkyard angel, always giving me bread. Well, if I go down dying, she bound to put a blanket on my bed.
Yeah, yeah,
So there's also something like really dark going on here.
yeah.
And
Or shoot him.
we'll see. And then you say it's sort of like and by the way, I just like Google search a Buick Six. You'll laugh at this.
What is
Um,
it?
it's like an
Is
old
it?
fashioned car.
Yeah, my grandfather had a Buick. Yeah, I think he might
You
have had
you know, so from a Buick Six. So
a huge car. I remember being a little kid sitting in it. It's the front of it is like it's like a tank. A Buick is like the old 70s or 60s Buicks were like tanks,
right.
and they had the thing at the end of the where the hood is. There was a Buick. There was like a bird or something that would be
Mm.
on it. You know. So
And,
any any
and
more comments
no,
on
and
that?
one of the best lines towards the last chorus. Yes, you're right. So I think you got it. I think really it's a great. Again, I always say like Dylan mastered the blues. Where he got the lyric content and really like master like Led Zeppelin. I know a lot of people don't like this opinion, but the greats like Robert Johnson are amazing. In
Yeah.
comes Dylan and just perfects it lyrically and
Oh yeah.
even musically in a way because the song is really good. It's like really really
Oh yeah. Yeah.
really rollicking. It's like from the first chord, like down down, like
Oh
they
yeah.
just start playing. But one of the best lyrics, which is kind of describing himself at the last part, he says, "Well, I need a steam shovel, mama, to keep away the dead. I need a
Mm.
dump truck, mama, to unload my head." And that's him. She brings me everything and more. And just like I said, well, if I go dying, she bound to put a blanket on my bed. But the line I want to focus on, I need a dump truck, mama, to unload my head. It's always been believed that that's Dylan's, like, he had all these stuff in his head that he needed to get out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's sort of like he's tapping into himself a little bit there. And who knows, this woman that's pleasing him again, kind of similar to what was the song in Bringing It Back Home that we were talking about? Where the women, Dylan has an odd
Yeah.
kind of like when he writes about women, it's funny. Like he has this odd way of thinking, which
Yeah. Well,
Jewish white boy, like
yeah. Something like that. Yeah. So let me
all right, and we are back. So we experienced some technical difficulties, but now
yeah.
we're gonna pick up where we left off. And before we, continue with Highway 61 Revisited, I do want to offer, so I checked myself, right? No pun intended, but I fact checked and I realized I messed up on Tombstone Blues, where one of the lyrics in the chorus, which I'll just read it. Mama's in the factory. She ain't got no shoes. Daddy's in the alley. Now, yesterday I said he's looking for a fuse,
Right, right.
and I'm in the kitchen with the Tombstone Blues. Actually, and I'm pretty sure it's this because I don't see how fuse would make sense. But
Yeah.
Mama's in the factory. She ain't got no shoes. Daddy's in the alley. He's looking for food,
Right. That
which
makes more sense.
actually would make sense, right? Because Daddy's homeless,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Either homeless or so desperate looking for food in the alley. So
Yeah.
make that minor, correction. Either way, the song's still amazing,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I just want to throw it out there. And then just before we continue, we left
yeah,
off at Promo Buick 6. You had a story about Mike Bloomfield, so I'll throw back
yeah,
to you.
yeah. I sent you this cool video where Mike Bloomfield was saying that he went in the studio and like Dylan really wasn't really like organized. It was like chaos.
Dude, that's what I was telling you yesterday.
Yeah,
I was
and there was
telling you that Dylan. I was reading. I don't know if it was Al Cooper or I don't know if it was Al Cooper or Bloomfield. So a long time ago, I saw his documentary,
yeah,
and I think it was Al Cooper though, and he was saying that Dylan would show up. Now, by the way, he's not a musician, so he'll be like, "Hey guys, here's the songs,
yeah, yeah.
and so they'll be like, "Wait, okay," and pretty much, dude, you have to thank the session players and the producers for what
Oh
they
yeah, yeah.
got because it was chaos.
Well, Bloomfield said the producer didn't even really know how to produce. I forgot the guy's name.
Is that the one? Is it the one? Remember Bob Dylan's 115 Dream? They're laughing. Is that the same one?
No, oh God, I
You know what
forgot.
I'm talking about when they start?
Yeah, yeah, it might be because there were two
Because
producers.
I know, so I know maybe Tom Wilson, right?
No, it wasn't Tom Wilson. I think it
Okay.
was another guy.
And the other guy that produces Bob Johnston.
Yeah, it was Bob Johnston. He, according to Mike Bloomfield, wasn't like really a great producer. Um, and the musician, one of the guy who played bass, Harvey Brooks, wasn't there, but I forgot the guy's name. Something Macho. I never played bass before. And then Dylan's handing the songs out, and the Desolation song. What is it called?
Desolation Row.
Yeah. He said, "Oh, by the way, this is 11 minutes long." And Bloomfield was like, "What the fuck?" You know what I mean? Bloomfield in the interview seemed like a little frustrated about these sessions.
I mean, dude, and it would make sense because think about it. Bloomfield is coming from the Paul Butterfield band, right?
Exactly, where it's probably all
It's Paul
organized.
Butterfield,
Yeah, yeah, Paul Butterfield. Yeah.
professional blues band. I mean,
Oh
that
yeah.
guy's a genius.
Yeah.
Great albums. So he goes into the Dylan sessions, and again, this is something I noticed about Dylan, where
Yeah.
his secret, on top of being a great lyricist and poet, right? No doubts there, but
Yeah.
his secret is the session players because, dude, the fact that it's sometimes some of these sessions are just miracles of what
Oh
they
yeah.
get
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think Tom Wilson is brilliant for also, his
Oh yeah. Yeah.
trying to capture and trying to work with Dylan. So you got this song. Let's put
Yeah.
some,
Yeah.
and just the fact that Mike Bloomfield improvised those guitar solos.
Everything's improvised. Just I guess he might have had chord charts that he gave him, or not even, or it was like it goes like this: A D C.
And
Okay, ready, guys?
okay, all right.
And those guys were so professional that they killed it. So so it's just an interesting story that this is not an easy album to make.
No, and one more thing. I think you sent this, or either I went the rabbit hole. Mike Bloomfield, it was in a book or an interview or something,
Yeah.
where he said something. Would you work with Dylan again? And oh no, so he was asked to go on tour, and he was like, "Man, I don't know. I'm just gonna go back to my band, the Paul Butterfield.
Yeah.
I don't know." So yeah, it's interesting, right? How he kind of was
He
frustrated.
didn't want to go with the biggest star in the world. Isn't that crazy? That's a true musician in my book. You know what I mean? Like, I would have went with Dylan in a second, but he was just like, nah. He's probably like, fuck it. I'm just gonna do what I like doing, and not join. And I've done that with bands. You get comfortable with musicians, you stay with them. I've gotten offers to play with other bands, but I just turned them down and stuff like that because you're just comfortable. Maybe he was just comfortable being with a Paul Butterfield blues band.
And not also the fact that I feel as though one of the most underrated things on this album is Mike Bloomfield's guitar. I mean, he knows his talent. I think he knows, and maybe Dylan, and obviously Dylan is center stage. It's not the Mike Bloomfield band, right?
No,
so
no.
it makes sense. And when Mike Bloomfield is allowed to play his Telecaster, I mean, man, whew,
oh yeah,
you can just hear
those guys being session players. They knew, they weren't gonna take 9-minute solos like whatever. They just knew what they had to do, and I don't think soloing was a big deal back then. You know,
Not in like if I had to take a guess in the professional Columbia record
yeah,
studio, most likely they were looking for hit singles, which
yeah.
solos was a little rare, and I think there were some rule
Solos
breaking.
didn't come out till Hendrix
Yeah,
came on the scene. You know, like where you did like a 3 minute solo. Of course, you know they did solos. Mike Bloomfield did crazy solos and stuff, but on the song it would be like maybe 30 seconds of a solo.
I think one of the biggest innovators were the Beatles.
Yeah,
Because in pretty much when they saw that the Beatles were getting hits, most likely,
yeah,
like, you're
yeah,
right, around that Hendrix period.
yeah. Like when Hendrix came out was when the solos I think got long and big, and then everybody was soloing, and then bands like Mountain came out and Clapton. You know, I
And
don't even.
then eventually Led Zeppelin.
Well, the Yardbirds, there's not a bunch of
You,
crazy solos. When you think
no,
of you don't think of the Yardbirds with all the greatness that was in that band as like, oh,
no, dude, they were kind of like the Animals. Like they were sort of like they have some
or the
great
Who.
songs.
They were like the Who, the Animals, just songs with like little solos in it. So you're never gonna go back and think about, you know, the guitar solos in that in the Yardbird song, like Shapes of Things. What's the guy's name? Samuel Smith, the bass player, was killer in that. I could be ass check me on that. But the bass player in the Yardbirds was killer. Anyway, so you want to take it from Buick Six?
Yeah, so I think we, um, so with the Buick Six, I think we wrapped it up lyrically, where
Right.
it's and I hopefully maybe you can go. We'll start on the music.
Okay.
Um,
Because basically, it was just to recap. It was about a woman who takes care of him, giving him what he needs,
yep,
right? And she walks like Bo Diddley, and she carries a 410 loaded, which to me is a gun. And I love the rhyme scheme. There's a great, I love the rhyme scheme.
it's really good.
Yeah.
And I just want to add too that so it takes a lot to laugh. It takes a train to cry, and from a Buick Six, and just like Tom Thumb's Blues, these are the three blues songs on the album, like the
Oh yeah. Okay.
straight blues songs.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think they're fantastic. And again, it's just sort of what we saw with Bring It All Back Home,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
where that middle section he devoted to kind of like a blues, rock style. So this is one of the three ones,
Yeah.
which coming up in a little bit we'll be talking about, just like Tom Thumb's Blues. But yeah, I
Yeah.
love the rhyming scheme, man,
Yeah.
100%.
That's an interesting one. When we get there. I hope I got it right. I think I got it right. The Tom Tom. Music uh, on Buick Six. Oh, and we talked about a Buick being a big giant. My grandfather had a brownish tan Buick. It was a fucking tank. You could fit like 9 people in that car. I remember driving around with them, and that was a that was a huge '60s car. Those Buicks, man. Maybe it was a Buick Six. I gotta ask my dad. Um, Musically, raucous blues song. You know that I love that term. Raucous blues
Yeah.
played in played in a blues style. The guitar is a style of Charlie Patton, who is like a predecessor to Robert Johnson. Of course, Robert Johnson. Um, and a great bass line. The bass line really stands out in that. There's a great harmonica break. It starts with that snare drum pop, and it's a 12 bar. And this is fascinating. If you're a musician, um, the bass player, Harvey Brooks, I'm pretty sure it was Harvey Brooks on this one, plays an F over a G chord. Now, that's a no-no in the bass world. You never do that. You play the root. If it's a G, you play a G. The bass player was playing the seventh chord, which is an F, which makes it sound really dissonant and like almost like you made a mistake. So if you listen for that, it's kind of cool. It works. He does it so quick that you don't really notice it, but you kind of hear it for a split second. He does this little run.
What part of the song do you remember?
Maybe after the first verse, you know,
So it's like a little mistake that was in there,
bring
and
it up. You know, like with the Maiden show, maybe he's probably really strict about playing his music. You know, but it's cool. You know, just to give that a listen. I would love to see if there's isolated tracks.
There probably is if you YouTube it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's pretty much my analyzation of that song. So, any comments or
Yeah, great song.
Robert Johnson influence on the guitar and Charlie
Mhm.
Patton of the Delta. Now comes the one that's gonna really we're gonna dig deep on this one.
This song is probably definitely like not. It's a great song. It definitely wasn't like the hit, but it's one of Dylan's famous songs.
Oh yeah, but the question there's the question people have been asking for years. You know,
Mm-hmm.
who is Mr. Jones?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we'll talk about that. I think I think I figured it out. I think you know who it is, but we'll never know because Dylan ain't gonna say. And there probably really isn't one Mr. Jones. And then what's the before I jump into it, the Counting Crows were they making a reference to Mr. Jones in that
You know
song?
what? That is. I never thought about that.
Mr. Jones and Me. I actually love the Counting Crows, and I thought they were a great band of the '90s.
They have the. Do you like their album? I think it's titled. You know what? I gotta listen to them. I just know that song,
Yeah.
which is Mr. Jones, right?
Yeah, they had like a Van Morrison vibe. They had a Dylan vibe. They had their own thing. They were different and they weren't grunge or anything. They were, you'd say Hootie and the Blowfish. You could see them opening for like a band like that, but they had great musicians and the singer was cool. He had a really cool look. He had a unique voice. I thought they were amazing.
You
Actually,
recommend? I gotta listen to their album. I think it's called August something.
yeah,
August.
yeah. I can't say that I was a huge like fan of the Counting Crows, but when they were on MTV, I watched their videos and I was in. There was one song that came out later in the '90s that I loved by them. Something Angels. I actually bought the album. So
They're a good band.
yeah, great band. But I wonder if there's a connection with Mr. Jones and me. Um,
That is actually fascinating because so the album's called August and Everything After, which if I give it
yeah,
a listen, I always like love listening to music. I love the Counting Crows. I remember they had this song on the Shrek 2. By the way, for our upcoming soundtrack episode, the Shrek 2 soundtrack, Accidentally in Love, which I love a lot, and I didn't know it was by the Counting Crows.
they wrote some good love songs.
They did.
Always that kind of thing. I just thought they were a good. I mean them, the Gin Blossoms,
The Gin Blossoms are so criminally underrated.
and then a one-hit wonder band, but they really weren't to me because I loved their album better than Ezra. They were. There's a lot of these bands that were like melodic.
Yeah.
I don't know what you would call it. Not in the grunge, facing grunge. But
Even Dylan's Son, the Wallflowers, they were an odd bunch.
yeah, I had that album. Um, I'm trying to think of there was a band Vault.
And by the way, just reading here a little note. So that song, Mr. Jones. So some believe the song is a veiled reference to the protagonist of Bob Dylan's Ballad of a Thin Man. So people have talked about it.
Yeah.
Based on the lyric, I want to be Bob Dylan. Mr. Jones wishes he has someone just a little more funky.
Yeah.
So there could be some truth to that.
There's a connection there. And Dylan hated them. I sent you that. He basically was like, fuck off. Like,
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think the Counting Crows, I don't know if you knew this, man. They're like, they're kind of like from like the rock and roll fans or rock music, they're not well liked, sort of similar to Hootie and the Blowfish. Do you remember the Spin Doctors?
No, the Spin Doctors. It's funny because that's another band from the era. Not a huge Spin Doctors fan.
But dude, they get lumped with them. That's
the reason why I don't like. I would never listen to the Spin Doctors is like I was in cover bands at the time, and we always did that. The Kryptonite. The bass player was good in the Spin Doctors. And they were considered. I actually played. There was a bar in the city called Nightingales. It was a little bar, and Fish, the Spin Doctors, and another big fucking jam band. I know it was Fish and the Spin Doctors. That's where they got their start, in this little tiny bar called Nightingales. Excuse me. I don't know who the other band was. Couldn't have been Dave Matthews. It was another big, jam band. Blues Traveler. I'm sorry.
Blues Traveler, yeah.
Who I loved. Blues Traveler, Spin Doctors, and Fish would play this bar. And we went and we played there. And it was just cool to play this legendary bar called Nightingales. And I remember it was a band called Deep River Meltdown I was in like the late 90s. So it was like, oh, cool, we're playing Nightingales, So this quick little story. But yeah, Blues Traveler I liked. So yeah, I would lump them all together with Counting Crows. Blues Traveler had some great fucking songs, and they had a great bass player, Bobby Sheehan. Oh my god!
It's funny, they're known for that one song.
Yeah.
But do you think that's one song?
No.
Okay, it's kind of similar to that situation with the Goo Goo Dolls, where
Iris.
That one song defines them.
If a Boy Named Goo has so many great songs, Eyes Wide Open, Naked, and that song happened to become huge. And I was with the Goo Goo Dolls when that album came out. I was on their tour bus, and me and my ex-wife, we would follow them around, and we became friends with them. They weren't popular yet. And they were like, yeah, we're going to do a video, I think, for the song Iris. Because, and we were like, oh, that's interesting. That's a cool song, And they had just put out, I think, Naked first. And they, and then after that, it was like they blew up. And we always would laugh. We were like on a tour bus with them. And they were playing a tiny bar, maybe to 50 people, 100 people. And then they just it was like a month later, you couldn't touch them, so. But I stayed in contact with the drummer. He was really cool. I'm not ashamed to say I like the Goo Goo Dolls.
Well, there's no shame in that, because they were they had that one huge single. I don't know if they had more success after that album that had that, but
they had a huge song after that. They played in the temple a lot. But prior to that, the Goo Goo Dolls were a great, I would almost say like a Cheap Trick sounding band. Great rock, punk elements. They had the Goo Goo Dolls. They had Jed, Hold Me Up, which is amazing. Came out in 1990. So they were pre-grunge. We talked about that on the Grunge Show.
But what's funny? I think, especially when they released that sound with Counting Crows, there was that 90s sound. And Hootie and the Blowfish also had that sound too. They got all the hate though. There was afterwards. That's why I'm saying, like, Counting Crows. The rock fans then reacted negatively against them. Like, and also Blues Traveler too. Like, they kind of lost fame. And Dave Matthews also. I mean,
not a fan. Dave Matthews.
Dave Matthews had his popularity in the 90s, but then afterwards there's some, obviously I'm not neutral on the subject. I'm just saying why we from rock critics and rock fans.
Dave Matthews was like a Grateful Dead kind of jam band thing, and great band, great bass player.
I think he plays harmonica. He's not bad.
No, you're thinking of Blues Traveler.
Not Dave Matthews?
No, Blues Traveler is Johnny Popper. John Popper's like one of the greatest.
Didn't he have like multiple, like a harmonica vest or something?
Like a wizard, going insane. Never seen anything like. I actually saw. This is crazy. I was young Cheech, 19 years old, 1989. We drove down to Jones Beach. I was with my guitar player, LJ, at the time, and I forgot who else was up. I think our friend Vinny drove. We got so fucking lost. We were kids, and we're getting, stoned and drunk in the back of the car going to the place. We see the Allman Brothers at Jones Beach. This is the day after Stevie Ray Vaughan died. Right, right after the plane crashed. So we saw the Allman Brothers. So we go there, and from the parking lot, you hear this harmonica. Because we were late, Caught about maybe 4 songs for Blues Traveler. And they were, sorry, I'm coughing, God. and they were nobody. They were just nobody knew who they were. They were probably still playing.
Amazing.
And I saw the harmonica, and I was like, "Oh my god! I never seen anybody play harmonica like that." And then I saw the bass player, and I'll never forget watching Blues Traveler open for the Allman Brothers in '89. It was like one of the greatest, blues rock shows I've ever seen. And the Allman Brothers killed it. Oh my god, they were so good. And they did a dedication to Stevie Ray Vaughan,
Oh wow.
back in my young man days. Wish I could go back, But anyway,
Yeah, off
so
track, but then now getting back to, just if I can quote Dylan, because something is happening here, but you don't know what it is. Do
yeah,
you, Mr. Jones? I love the way he delivers that line. So who is Mr. Jones? I think you're gonna explore that mystery.
yeah. And I love how F. Scott Fitzgerald.
I love how that popped up.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, is that absurdism?
Well, do you have the lyric in front of you?
No, I have my notes on the
No,
song.
no worries. No worries. Because that's actually really amazing how you mentioned that, because if I have the lyrics here, so he says here again, who is Mr. Jones? There are a couple theories, and
Yeah.
he says here, you've been with the professors and they've all liked your books, your looks. With great lawyers, you have discussed lepers and crooks. You've been through all of F. Scott Fitzgerald's books.
Right.
And I like how that he Dylan respects F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Oh, he's a man. Yeah.
You're very well read. It's well known, but something is happening here and you don't know what it is. And he says, "Do you, Mr. Jones?"
Yeah.
But yeah, great mention. I love F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Oh, yeah. Really good. So basically, I'm just gonna keep it simple and then get into who we think he is. The mishaps of Mr. Jones, who keeps getting into strange situations. A word freaks, weirdos, and geeks.
Mhm.
So it was basically another theory, a song written for the people who asked questions all the time to Dylan. Dylan doesn't like to be asked questions, basic ones, but he was tired of answering, so he would just give them more questions to their question. That, classic Dylan.
Mm-hmm.
He would basically say life speaks for itself. So I think that has something to do with it too. He's being annoyed by Mr. Jones, who is, we're going to get to, asking him questions. And he's asking Mr. Jones questions. And he's like, let life speak for itself. Basically, what is Mr. Jones about? Listen to the song. That would be his one word answer. You know what I mean? So, any comments on that? Or you think that's...
That's good. Yeah, because I sent you that video. Did you see that, him getting mad at the guy, I think from Times Magazine?
Yeah.
When he questioned, do you care about what you write or something, or what you sing? And then he
Yeah.
really gets mad. He goes like, how can you ask me that question? Do you ask the Beatles that question? Like,
Yeah.
he was really getting confrontational. So yeah, this Mr. Jones, I think you're gonna head here next. It could be his frustration with a certain reporter.
And then this is interesting. And me and Daquan were talking about this, and I had showed him the picture. Now, I don't know if there's a Black Panthers reference in the song, but I do know that Huey P. Newton, who started the Black Panthers, loved Bob Dylan, and I sent you that picture.
Mm-hmm.
He had a picture of, Highway 61 Revisited. He's holding it up, and I don't know if he liked that song that album because of this song, or is that an older picture from 1971 when Dylan wrote a song about George Jackson, who was a Black Panther, who was murdered in prison, and Dylan wrote a song about how messed up it was and how wrong it was, civil rights kind of type of song. So, a Huey Newton loved Bob Dylan, and then, me and Devontae were talking about, I was like, you got to give him some street cred now. You know? Nah. But if you go and you put in Huey Newton, Bob Dylan, there's a picture. I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, I know from like my notes, he admired the song.
Huey Newton did.
He admired it, yeah, and he actually interpreted. This is interesting. He interpreted the lyrics as being about racism.
Wow.
And another one that admired him was this fella named Stokely Carmichael, who was a major player in the civil rights movement. He also loved the song, and he thought he saw a song about racism in this, which I'll be honest with you, I could kind of see.
Yeah.
I could kind of see. Like, I don't think that's the correct interpretation, but I think I could see how they would love this song.
And I think it's, so cool. And this is the point I was trying to get to Daquan, how, Bob Dylan was writing music, how angry he was about what was going on with the civil rights movement, what was going on in the African American community, that it attracted the Black Panthers, that they became fans. The guy who started the Black Panther became a fan.
Mm-hmm.
And that's I think a great thing, that's not mentioned. People don't even really know that.
And it's funny because, Dylan originally, this song, I don't think it's about civil rights movement, or I don't see it. But the thing is, like, the fact that he, and many years later, the guy, remember the song Hurricane in the 1970s?
Yeah.
The guy who was falsely in prison, I'm forgetting his name. I saw it in the Rolling Thunder documentary, which is really, I recommend. Directed by Martin Scorsese.
Is it the guy? Is it George Jackson?
I think it's George Jackson. He ends up loving Bob Dylan, and and obviously because of that song he made for him. But Dylan really is, he's one of those that.
No, but George Jackson died in prison.
No, so it's not him. It's the one that Hurricane was written for. I could probably search it out. Yeah. Not George Jackson. No.
Yeah, because Dylan wrote that as like a protest song, like how.
No, that's not him. Not someone else. So many years later, it's on. I forget the album name. It's one of his iconic albums from the 70s. Forgot. But yeah, it's interesting. I think somebody people should appreciate that.
Yeah, and then we got into that whole world, and I thought it was amazing how different cultures could appreciate each other. Like
our music.
You wouldn't think the Black Panthers are gonna like folk music, and I think that's beautiful. Is that what I mean? And that Dylan was doing so much activism, and for civil rights, for the African American community and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't think he gets enough credit for.
No, it's funny, and on that song, you might get in trouble now. So actually, let me just. Would you know the song "Hurricane" by Bob Dylan?
I heard it, yeah.
So it's off. So really, just a quick detour. So with this song, it was another protest song that he wrote in 1975. It's off his album 1976's "Desire," which is his last classic 70s one, and he wrote. Okay, so he wrote it about the imprisonment of boxer Reuben Hurricane Carter.
Oh,
and it's funny, in the song, I'm pretty sure he says the N-word too.
Really?
But the boxer was like, "Man, Dylan, you're a cool cat." Like, he wanted to go sing it in prison for him. So I don't know. I think Bob Dylan did get street cred.
He probably didn't say it. Well, anytime you say that word, it's negative. You know what I mean?
I know. No, in the context of the song, again, it's like that's why I can't stand when people have a problem with Huckleberry Finn and they start accusing. The thing is, like, in the like, Huckleberry Finn is no offense, it's a jab against racism at the time.
Yeah.
And poor Huckleberry Finn is so innocent. He befriends a runaway slave.
Yeah, no, I know. That's how cool Huckleberry Finn,
Mark Twain's a genius. Yeah. And then for Tom Sawyer, Rush, hello, like the embodiment of, like, free will and the free spirit.
Yeah. But anyway, this is a touchy subject, so
we'll leave it at that. But the point is, I love how a Black Panther founder found this Ballad of a Thin Man song of all songs and said, "Man, I love this song."
How cool was his musical taste? You know what I mean? Like, that's amazing.
Well, just a fun fact. I think that guy, I could be wrong, he majored in social philosophy, so he was a smart dude.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, he was a
Or
really smart guy. Yeah,
like Malcolm X,
and he
intelligent dudes.
and he got a bad rap. He totally did because what people think of them is not. You know what I mean? It was a positive thing. It was a movement. You know, and Huey Newton is a genius, as far as I'm concerned. You know. Um. Anyway, who is Mr. Jones? I think I got the guy's name, Jeffrey Jones,
Hmm.
who interviewed Dylan, and the interview basically went bad. And I wanted to know who who Mr. Jones was. Maybe he knew it was about him. Ironically, Jeffrey Jones interviews him. You know what I mean? And or maybe he didn't. Maybe I didn't. I misinterpreted it. Maybe he wrote it after Jeffrey Jones interviewed him. You can check that. I don't think anyone's ever going to know that. But Dylan said to other interviewers, "There's a lot of Mr. Jones. You know, is it Jeffrey Jones?" He goes, "Well, there's a lot of Mr. Jones
Yeah,
now."
I think he's something like there are 1,000 Joneses or something. It's classic Dylan being
Yeah, but
ambiguous.
I think it's about Jeffrey Jones because it never went right. It was always like it was probably Dylan being Dylan, sarcastic and not really wanting to be there, that kind
Right,
of thing.
right.
You know, it's
It's
like,
funny. I think ultimately it's a jab at these reporters who are, high intellectuals, or so they think, and they have the nerve to sort of like maybe critique Dylan, and Dylan's,
yeah,
or take opinions, like how everyone hates critics,
yeah, oh yeah, yeah,
kind of like that. So then Dylan makes this sneering kind of like, and again, even the title "Ballad of a Thin Man," like he's insulting this Mr. Jones.
yeah. Like a real thin guy, and he probably, who knows? I should look up Jeffrey. We should get a picture of him. See what he looks like. If he's a thin man. Um. Anyway, we covered a lot on that. Getting into the Black Panthers, getting into all the other crazy F. Scott Fitzgerald. There's a lot of shit in that song.
Let me add one couple of cool facts. The first one is, do you know the John Lennon song when he was with the Beatles, "Your Blues" off the White Album?
Oh, what? That's one of the greatest bass lines. God damn! I remember
Well, I think probably McCartney did that. McCartney's just a genius, but
12/8. It's an odd meter. I remember learning that, and it's not. It's like it's not 6/8. I think it's 12/8. It's a really really cool song.
he has. Oh, that's really cool. And he has this. John Lennon wrote this line here: "The eagle picks my eye, the worm he licks my bone." He says, "I feel so suicidal, just like Dylan's Mr. Jones."
Wow.
So Mr. Jones is sort of like an archetype. And Dylan created this archetype that then Lennon being intelligent that he is, he gets it and
Mhm.
says, "Man, like if I was Mr. Jones, I'll kill myself."
What year did that come out? And that's off Revolver.
That's off. No, the White Album, 1968,
Oh, so it came out.
and
Yeah.
that song is harsh. Like it's cool how he talked about it musically, which is great. But lyrically, it's like just to read some lyrics. Yes, I'm lonely, want to die. Yes, I'm lonely.
Yeah.
Like it's like you know,
Blue.
and
It's like that 12/8 blues kind of thing. Great and
yeah,
great. Any bass player should definitely learn that song. Um, so the music, what I like about the music in Ballad of a Thin Man, it's a 1950s feel. The chord progression
mm,
going back to the 50s, it has that 50s style.
it
Um,
does.
it has a great chord progression and pattern. It has great little licks that Bloomfield is throwing in there. Once again, Al Cooper's keyboards are amazing. The lyrics, obviously, we just went over, are just phenomenal, and the groove is nice. It's a very nice groove. And it has that 50s vibe, which I really liked about it, which is different for him. He doesn't know, he didn't use like a 50s kind of feel.
Yeah.
No, I
No,
thought that
and
was.
it's funny. It should be noted that Dylan's playing the piano chords.
Oh, he's playing piano on that.
Yeah,
Oh,
and he has a famous, iconic live performance of it.
wow.
So he's
That's
actually playing the piano, and then drummer Bobby Chegg
yeah.
said during the sessions, that is a nasty song, Bob. And then Cooper, he adds, Dylan was the king of the nasty song at that time.
Yeah.
So very interesting how you kind of, and when they say nasty, they're not insulting. It's like it's a
Like a
great
bad.
song.
Hey, the
Bad.
Beatles used it, and 30 years later, Counting Crows. You know,
They make
and
like name checks.
you wonder who else have used Mr. Jones in their songs. You know.
And Al Cooper, of course, being the genius that he is, says that this song, Ballad of Mr. Jones, is musically more sophisticated than anything else on Highway 61.
Wow.
He visited. So just to show you how you're right, it's 1950s vibe. So it's
Yeah.
unlike most of Dylan's songs. So it's not like the usual Dylan song at the time. Like this is one of the first times he kind of incorporates the sound,
Oh
and
yeah.
production wise, it's pretty amazing. Now, I don't know, do you like the so you talked about the music. Now, is this a repeat listen for you?
Oh yeah. This one, Tombstone Blues.
Okay. I know this one, Ballad of a Thin Man, it's like, you know how you see like the Ballad of a Thin Man musically is so down that I can only listen to it for, I can't repeat it. It's a great song, but
Yeah.
just musically it's so, I don't know
Yeah.
what it is. It's like the chords
Yeah.
or like the sound, the vibe, the lyrics are harsh too. It's not,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
great, but it's a song that I don't listen to often, but I do listen
Yeah.
every once in a while.
I mean, Maggie's Farms I can listen to over and
No,
over.
Maggie's Farm. I love Maggie's Farm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that one is a repeat listen. You
Yeah.
ever seen Cheech, you ever seen a movie like those movies like you can only watch once?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So this song for me, About Thin Man, gives that same vibe where it's
And you don't want to watch it again.
yeah, and of course you'll watch it again because for the
Yeah.
art and
Well,
the
I
vibe.
would say that about The Exorcist. Just for the fright.
I'll be honest with you though. I think The Exorcist is like you could rewatch it and rewatch it and rewatch it. Wait, have you seen Beetlejuice?
Oh yeah. That.
You know he makes that joke. I've seen The Exorcist like 600 times.
Yeah. I mean, I've watched The Exorcist. I had too many bad experiences watching it as a kid.
Oh, that's hard. See, that's harsh.
Catholic, like 8-year-old, and it would, when it made television, it made, they put it on TV, and just being curious, and then just seeing Reagan and being like, oh my god, and then I had a hard time for years. Like I used to sleep with the TV on. I swear to God, and I'd be like,
I wonder if it's like the demonic influence in that movie.
well, this is a true story. So I would sleep with the TV on, and I was like, okay, what are the odds when I'm sleeping, The Exorcist is going to show on TV, right? So I wasn't married yet, living home, the TV's on. You don't think about it. I don't sleep with the TV now, but I did back then. I don't know why. So one night I left Channel 7 on. I usually would leave the cartoon channel on because I knew
And
that
of course, Channel 7.
So middle of the night, I'm groggy and I start to hear like growling and shit. And I'm like, is my dog okay? I look up and I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. And I fucking like ran. I was like, shut it off. And I'm like, fuck, how am I going to sleep now? I got to get up for fucking work. I mean, took me a while. And my brother-in-law would always bust on me about, Rob would always bust on me about, The Exorcist and stuff. But it left an impact on me as a kid. And I had to sit through it at a party. When I watched it, I did end up, watching the whole movie. It's genius. I probably watched it twice in my life.
Oh, I was gonna say that the movie is now. I agree with you. I actually, you know what? I 100% agree with you. I would not rewatch that movie. It is like Ballad of a Thin Man, where
the greatest horror movie, in my opinion.
I would say greatest horror, greatest Catholic movie. I always say like Catholics, if you love Jesus and all that good stuff, watch this movie because you're gonna get a sense of the demonic and the way they kind of did it was so realistic. And I love it how the priest doesn't really believe in this stuff in the movie. You would think you would think, oh man, it's a religious movie. Not so much. It actually tells you. It's actually I always say I'm always touched about the mother-daughter relationship. Where the mom loses control and she's so desperate She
Yeah.
goes to the priest, and then the priest says, "Hey, man, we don't believe in the church doesn't believe in this stuff
Yeah.
anymore."
Yeah. But it's it's probably the greatest movie. And I remember as a teenager, I was at it was peer pressure at a party, and the kids went to Blockbuster or whatever video store, and they rented it, and I was sitting there with this girl that I was like, with, and I was like, oh, I feel sick. I'm not doing so good. I got a stomach ache. I gotta go home. And as I'm leaving, I think my friend Scott Harper was like, "You fucking pussy, I know you." He was like my best friend, and I ran out of that house. And Scott was notorious. Like when we were kids, he'd sleep over, and like we would have like a Texas Chainsaw was one too that I didn't like to watch, and like in the middle of the night, I'd be sleeping, and he's watching the Texas Chainsaw in my living room while we're we didn't
I,
have
I,
sleepovers and stuff.
Dude, Texas Chainsaw, like I get the horror, like, I get why it's a horror classic, but I don't
Yeah.
know, that movie is so hard to watch for me. Like
It bothered me as a kid. And believe me, Friday the 13th, too. Because I was little when this shit came out. Like, I was like 11 years old, 12 years
oh
old
my
when
God, it's gonna leave an imprint, an impact.
cable. I remember when we first got cable. And of course, you want to watch it. You're like, oh, you got. And then I was a scaredy cat. I really was. So, not anymore. you know, not anymore. I would say, hey, Reagan, jump in bed with me because I'm not scared anymore. you know. But I will say the remake was pretty good. The remake was pretty good.
Oh, and Exorcist 3, really
No,
good.
no, the latest one that came out.
No, I'm saying like that's good in Exorcist 3. Like
Oh, Exorcist 3 yeah, Exorcist 2 sucked. And the prequels were really good. They were really good. Anyway, I don't want to have nightmares tonight. So
no, so going back to Ballad of a Thin Man, and I think we kind of established that the Jones, it's an open mystery. I think it's Dylan jabs at all the reporters,
oh yeah, yeah,
which
yeah.
he hated the.
Mr. Jones is just a metaphor maybe for all the reporters.
It's an archetype.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
so pretty much you don't. So for our audience, you don't want to be Mr. Jones.
No, no.
You don't want to be Mr. Jones.
We know a lot of Mr. Jones too.
Oh man, I
Oh,
think it's
God.
funny. We nickname. I'm not gonna name drop him, but I texted you, man.
Wait,
This might,
Wait, we have a new nickname for Mr. Jones. And you know who I'm thinking of? The scheming demon. He is now Mr. Jones.
dude. I want to say to him, like, do you Mr.
Yeah. The scheming demon is now Mr. Jones.
Mr. Well, one of them, I think. He's a sword swallower. You catch my drift.
Yeah, literally, yeah. Anyway, I'm going to say this wrong. And I love the name Jane because I have a beautiful niece named Jane. Queen Jane,
Approximately.
approximately. Okay. So this is what I got about it. About a girl named Jane. She's tired of herself. People resent her. She lives in a inauthentic world filled with superficial attitudes. She is invited to see Dylan, the protagonist singing the song, when she is ready to break away from her superficial world. He invites her to come and be with me, and engage in honesty and authentic expressions, or someone to pick up her pieces or to help her get back on her feet. That's just I don't know if I butchered that one or what do you think.
No, I think that's pretty good. I think this is and I don't know if you said it, but the singer, which might be obviously Bob Dylan, but he's criticizing the subject of the song, which is Jane.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She's
And it's sort of like what would you think? It's like a sort of like a weird, not weird, but heartbreak song, I guess.
a girl with her nose in the air, an arrogant girl who thinks she's better than everybody, maybe, who's got problems. And when you're ready to see me, when you want an authentic life, come and see me. And we can engage in authentic experiences together, opposed to your life that you have in your inauthentic world, and you're tired of it. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So I mean, it could be that. That's just my opinion from listening to it and listening to it. Did some research on it, but there's really nothing you could find on
Well, I
Joe.
know, and also people have been wondering who if Queen Jane is someone in Bob's life too. Like that's been another speculation.
Joan Baez.
I think Joan Baez, which I think that would make sense
Yeah, she probably is Joan Baez. Jane.
because lyrically, I mean, it's interesting because he kind of goes and I love the chorus of this line, "Won't you come see me, Queen Jane?" And like with the
Yeah,
music, it's really good.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think it's a great song. It's just it's like a heartbreak song in a way.
Oh, definitely.
Very
Yeah,
very nice melody too.
yeah. It's great. Um, so I guess we kind of analyzed it, right? It makes sense. And you nicely said, Joan Baez. I think that's a
Mhm.
good.
No,
You know,
and it's funny, Queen Jane. People think it could be referring to the Tudor queens, so Lady Queen Jane Grey and Jane Seymour. So that's enough. But speculation has centered on Joan Baez,
why Jane?
who
Like, was she really popular at that time?
who
Jane Seymour, you said?
so no the Tudor queens. Yeah, I mean, well, no, the Tudor queens, Jane Seymour, the third wife of King Henry
Oh,
VIII.
I thought you meant Jane Seymour, the actress. I'm like, what?
No, the Tudor.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, the English and Welsh dynasty that held the throne of England. But then, because Dylan and Baez had the reputation of the king and queen of folk music, and then the
Yeah.
relationship soured, and then it's funny. I have here in 1965, Dylan himself told journalist Nora Ephron that Queen Jane is a man, though. So see, that's the problem with Dylan. Like, apparently
Oh,
it's hard to analyze him. And then, okay, if he's a man, then hold on. Who is this Queen Jane?
I mean, could it be a man?
And I think that Dylan's being. I think, like lyrically, I think. And you know what's funny? She just. I have my own. You know how we love Rush,
Yeah.
so I have my own obsession with Springsteen, and on his debut album,
Hmm.
he has "Greetings from Asbury Park." On this album, he has another interesting song. So I think it has a similar vibe, "Mary Queen of Arkansas."
Yeah, 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 yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
very similar to that. I don't know if that was a response to this because Springsteen idolized Dylan.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but yeah, see, that's one with Dylan. Like he'll say this, but then in an interview, he'll like, "Oh no, Queen Jane's a man."
Doesn't make sense. Does-
So just you did a great job analyzing it, but then see he'll say that, and you'll be like, "Wait, what?"
There's got to be somebody who wrote a book about Dylan's lyrics who analyzed it. Like Russian philosophy, that kind
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah, you would need a book, and it's funny because so and like I said before, you did a good job. You got the basic, spine of the song.
Yeah,
Um, the singer is criticizing the subject of the song and then warning her of her imminent fall from grace, right? So it's someone that's falling from grace. So
yeah,
Joan Baez would make sense. And you know how, like a Rolling Stone, he's more scathing, and this
yeah.
one he's more gentler, and he even has some compassion. So it's like it's a very nice song, but at the same
I
time, it's definitely cynical.
I think it's about Joan Baez.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, with lines like this, look at this. Um, Let me give you a good line. Now, when all the flower ladies went back, what they have lent you, and the smell of the roses does not remain, and all of your children start to resent you, because who knows, is
Yeah.
that Joan Baez's fans or, you know?
Hmm.
And then Dylan says, "Won't you come see me, Queen Jane?" Because Bob Dylan was on top of the world. I mean, I don't know.
You know what? I think we just broke through. We had a
I
major break.
think that Queen Jane is Joan Baez.
Yeah, definitely.
And he even has one interesting line in the first part with the family. When your mother sends back all your invitations and your father to your sister, he explains that you're tired of yourself and all of your creations. And then Bob Dylan throws that jab, "Won't you come see me, Queen Jane?"
Yeah,
Because Bob Dylan was writing songs for Joan and giving it.
yeah.
Maybe the parents didn't like Joan Baez singing anymore, you know, because
The original diss song.
might be. So,
Might
Chi, do
be.
you have anything musically?
Oh yeah.
We'll go musically now.
Okay. Um. So Queen Jane has a raw feel to it.
Mhm.
Great organ. I'm gonna keep saying this because it's the truth. Great chord progression. Great bass fills. Great bass and drum fills, and a slightly out of tune guitar.
I was gonna say, what do you think about that? Apparently, it clashes with the organ and piano chords.
Yeah, I mean, and then of course the great harmonica at the end. I'm not a fan of things being out of tune, because
Now,
like
when you listen to the song, do you hear it?
you can hear it. You can hear it. Yeah.
So musically, you'll be like, "Whoa!"
Pick it up right away. I'm like, oh, this is slightly out of tune, and
Now, what do you think? Do you think there's like a prototype of garage rock? Was he kind of like you know
oh,
how
his recordings were just like, in a room playing live. They didn't overdub, I don't think, on these albums. They didn't go back in and do like a harmonica solo over the tracks as they were going, you know. So I think that was left there on purpose, as an effect. And whoever the guitar player was probably could have. Was there another guitar player on that, or this was all Bloomfield? I don't
so it's
remember.
Dylan and Mike Bloomfield on electric guitars.
Imagine Bloomfield wanting to keep that because he was a perfectionist, and he probably was like, that's why maybe that interview he's a little like.
No, and it says here that the mix is raw.
And
So
I said that was one of the things I heard right away.
so
It's
it's very so it's just an interesting song that lyrically it's interesting, right? It sounds like some sort of ballad heartbreak song, and then musically it's raw. It's probably so raw that so
we
raw
should
that the electric guitar's out
not
of tune.
this anymore. My door just opened up, so I don't know what
Oh gosh, all right, yeah, we got to stop talking about the demonic.
the wind. I thought it was Mr. Black, and then I'm
Maybe the
like,
window.
it's the wind. Yeah, I'm just fucking around. Uh, but yeah, I think the slightly out of tune might have pissed off Bloomfield. I mean, I can't imagine him wanting to keep that. You know, I I hate that. I hate that when guitars are out of tune, or God, if I'm out of tune, no, I'm just like I fucking lose my shit. I'm like, fuck, no, I can't be out of tune. So, but it makes a song interesting. You can hear it on some early AC/DC records, like High Voltage, that Malcolm's slightly out of tune. You could kind of hear it. But it's I guess it's left there. It's a part of music history. It's there. But I think it adds to the song. And I think I like the music. The music is great. Bass and drums are really tight. So
So
any
pretty much the song is chaos recorded.
and that's what Bloomfield complained about. That was
But I'll be honest with you, for what Dylan was doing, it's brilliant because see, I never noticed the guitar. I'm not a musician, so I listen to it, and what I get from the song, it's telling me, man, if Dylan can do this, I can, because I hear the rawness. Like there's a rawness on this album
and by
that
the way, I love the Young Manny's Satisfaction cover.
oh, dude, you know it's funny. I saw it on Facebook, and I
Really
completely for
good.
dude. That's a high compliment, dude. It's funny because I started with those simple. It's funny how I learned too. Just learning
Yeah. Oh, you
before I
picked
just
it.
got going.
You learned it on your own. Satisfaction.
Yep, yep.
So you got a good ear. That's great.
So I'm trying to get back into it. Like I got a guitar for Christmas, so I'm trying to. I'm not good, but
Pick up some Dylan songs, and you
that's
know what? Go on YouTube. I would say buy a Dylan songbook, but like go on YouTube and you get a tutorial from any great
yeah,
player how to
yeah.
play any Dylan song. It's probably
Well,
out.
it's funny. I learned how to tune my guitar to open E.
Right.
I don't know if that you know what that means. So it's really cool because because I was reading something about Keith Richards where he discovered open tunings,
Yeah,
and for him it was like, and I was trying to learn Prodigal Son off the Rolling Stones album.
yeah.
I learned the chords, so now I'm kind of putting some stuff together because. And it's just so fascinating. Like the art of playing music is so difficult. That's why. Thank you for that compliment. And you're a musician, and Bob Dylan. I think people have to understand making music. I just have a new appreciation for people that make music.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. You all got to be dedicated. You got to be dedicated to yourself. You got to practice every single day, depending on what you want. If you want to be a great musician, and if you want to be a great band, it's even that much further. You got to really work hard, and you got to play. I'm one of these people, like, let's play the song 5 times in a row until we get it right. So it's a lot of dedication. That's why when you see, the greatest players like Coltrane or Jaco Pastorius, Bloomfield, those guys practice their asses off. You have to like to practice to become a good player, my opinion.
Yeah,
Or
no.
a singer songwriter. I mean, it just to be Dylan, that's even harder than
Well,
being a great.
I'm pretty sure Dylan practiced, and he got trained or learned from the greats.
Yeah, and to write songs and sing and play like that, that's you're a musician, but it's different than the soul, like a Mike Bloomfield, but it's still it's an art on its own to do that. So you want to jump into Highway 61 Revisited?
So this is probably, yeah. So this is, dude. I don't know if I had. Obviously, I'll pick "Like a Rolling Stone" as the greatest song, right? But
Yeah,
Manny's favorite, um, Tombstone Blues, and I love Highway 61 Revisited. This song has some. This is the one that I will play repeat 10 times.
yeah,
I love everything about it. Like something about and Tombstone Blues, and obviously like a Rolling Stone, and
yeah.
obviously the whole album. But Highway 61, the song Revisited is amazing.
Oh, it is. And I'm gonna bring some stuff up that your expertise at, which I think is in the song, and we talked about it. Religion. There's some religion in the song, and I
You
even went
know,
deep.
no, Chi, let me ask you a question. Did you know like all of the religion references on like this album and the previous ones?
Not really. I had to dig for this. I had to dig, and I have a fun fact when I get to it. Like, so it's about religion. God tells Abraham to kill me a son, and God wants it done on Highway 61. I'm just, and that's Genesis 22, right?
Genesis 22, correct.
So for you Bible heads out there, go check it out.
Hmm.
Um, Now, here's a fun fact. Do you know Bob Dylan's father's name?
Actually, no. What is it?
Abraham.
What?
Yeah.
Man, that's next level, dude.
You could ask check me on it, but that's what I read. I read in a source. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty confident his name's Abraham.
I wonder, huh?
You can ask check me on that. Um, I don't know. I think I did my homework on that. And then the next line, or the next, and I love there's 5 choruses. I mean 5 verses. I
Hmm.
didn't I didn't get to all of them. I just picked the ones that stood out for me. Georgia Sam, who was beyond help from the welfare department, he's talking about Blind Willie McTell,
Hmm.
who wrote, I believe he wrote Statesboro Blues. You know, um, but I think it might not be about him because he was from Texas, so pretty sure. But that's the source I got. He's singing about a blues player, a blues man, and I think it's Blind Willie McTell on that one. Um, I like this one. Mac the Finger has a problem getting rid of things. He's got 1,000 telephones that don't ring, 40 red and white and blue, red and white, 40 red and white blue shoes. So basically, I think it's about a hoarder, a guy like a homeless person on the highway 61. who just has a bunch of shit, like some crazy person.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I could be way off, but there's somewhere in this song, there's an influence by the Old Testament, and maybe I'm saying it wrong. Ezekiel.
Mm-hmm. Ezekiel, the prophet.
He's somewhere in this song, from what my research told me. Now I don't know his story. There was a line that says something like, "A daughter tells a father to seek a second wife, and the daughter is with the seventh son."
Mm-hmm.
And each verse takes place on Highway 61. So that's basically my. I couldn't get too insane with. I mean, there's so much. There's too many verses.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you think I did on that one?
I think you covered. You did a good job, because this song is actually, I think, really difficult to interpret. But I think, yeah, you're right. You kind of went through the 5, was it stanzas, choruses, or no, not
Verses.
verses. So you went through the 5 verses, and I think it's interesting because the opening verse where God said to Abraham, "Kill me a son." Obviously, that's Genesis 22.
Yeah.
But instead, Bob Dylan has Abe say, "Man, you must be putting me on." And then I think it just shows Bob Dylan's humor. And then God say, "No." Abe say, "What?" God say, "You can do what you want, Abe, but the next time you see me coming, you better run."
Yeah.
Well, Abe says, "Where do you want this killing done?" "Out on Highway 61. And just going back to interpret the song is what we talked about earlier, yesterday, of what Highway 61 was.
Yeah.
So it was, like you said, it runs from, which is this is interesting too. It runs from his native Minnesota, but Duluth, Minnesota, where Bob Dylan was born, down to New Orleans, Louisiana. It was and get this, it was a major transit route out of the Deep South, particularly for African Americans, traveling to Chicago, St. Louis, and Memphis, following the Mississippi River Valley.
Wow.
So all of these stanzas, things go down in Highway 61.
Exactly.
So,
a lot of shit really went in life down on Highway 61.
Mm-hmm. And in the song, and look at in the last one, it's kind of funny. Now, the roving gambler, he was very bored. He was trying to create a next world war. I think that kind of might be relevant to today, but this dude, the roving gambler, wants to create the next world war. He found a promoter who nearly fell off the floor. He said, "I never engaged in this kind of thing before, but yes, I think it can be very easily done. We'll just put some bleachers out in the sun and have it on Highway 61.
Right,
So it's like this is critique against having a third world war, and it's fascinating too. Like one of the lines I get, it's very hard to interpret, but now the 5th daughter on the 12th night. Now I love how you said that was a reference to Ezekiel.
Yeah,
Which,
that's what.
Again, in order to understand the song, you got to understand what exactly is Highway 61. And by the way, he names the album Highway 61 Revisited.
If
right?
If you don't know Highway 61 history, you're just gonna be like, it's just crazy.
Yeah. You're gonna be like, what is he talking about? Even like the album title, like again, when I discovered Like a Rolling Stone and then tracked it to this album, I was so confused. Like, Highway 61 Revisited. That's weird.
Oh yeah.
I came off from like hearing like the Beatles, like Sgt. Pepper, Lonely Hearts Club Band to this, and I was like, I don't know what the heck he's talking about here. But the third verse with the 5th verse about the 5th daughter and the 12th night, dude, he's following the enumeration pattern and the beginning in the book of Ezekiel. So I don't know if you noticed, he's so sneaky how he does this and why.
I was right about that with the Ezekiel.
No, you were absolutely right. And it's funny because he says here, now the 5th daughter on the 12th night told the first father that things weren't right. My complexion, she said, is much too white. He said, come here and step into the light. He says, you're right. Let me tell the second mother this has been done. But the second mother was with the 7th son. So this is all biblical numbers.
Yeah.
And then he ends it with, and they were both out on Highway 61.
Genius. That's a genius.
So that's Bible in a verse, and you gotta track those Bible numbers to figure out what he's talking about.
Yeah,
Which Bob Dylan, man, like And I think ultimately the song is, it's yeah, things go down in this Highway 61, and
Yeah.
he's
Like,
revisiting and he's revisiting. So if
eh,
we follow the story of the album, the
yeah.
concept, you know, this song is he's revisiting this Highway 61 where these things went down.
Yeah, not to bring up, the devil again, but Robert Johnson sold his soul on Highway 61, and then he's talking about the Bible on Highway 61. So there's like the good and evil aspect of it as well. And I love, you know, um, the Abraham and the Ezekiel. He studied his Bible. That's amazing.
Yep.
Um, so musically, um, a whistle. The
I
whistle is
That's my favorite part.
that's the train, obviously, right? I would assume that when it
Well,
must.
you know what's funny? Apparently, I mean, just the fact that he put this siren whistle
Yeah,
on the album, I thought that the way he kind of begins like when you first hear the song, that's what you hear.
yeah.
Woo! Like you
It's
just hear
great.
that
Yeah.
whistle,
I think the drum,
and
the whistle, the
the
drum.
drummer, the
Yeah,
drummer apparently uh brought it in. Sam Lay, who's one of the session drummers,
yeah.
and other people say that it was brought in by Al Cooper. And there's a rumor that he originally brought the siren whistle to police the session. So if someone began to do drugs while they were recording, he would go in the corner and blow on that whistle.
Oh, that's funny.
So I don't know. And I think it's brilliant the way it's in the song. I
Yeah,
love it.
that's so 60s, right? Go, take a break, not coffee break off some fucking blow or something. Uh, so the whistle opens the song, and it's a strange kind of blues. It's a, I mean it's like it's different. It's a straight ahead blues, but there's something different about it. Great drumming, very repetitive music, nice electric piano.
Hmm.
Now you hear the electric piano on here. We talked about the lyrics, and there's a nice guitar solo outro that I just want to keep going. That guitar solo, it's like a little outro thing.
Yeah.
But he should have did a verse where Bloomfield could just rip, but that's not that's Dylan.
He should have done that where in the middle let out like a ripping guitar solo where or
Yeah,
kind of get maybe one of Robert Johnson's like haunting, what Eric Clapton did on, Crosstown
but
Blues.
but what you hear Bloomfield do is genius in that like 10 seconds. He's always doing these little licks that are going across Dylan's
It's
vocals.
really brilliant. Yeah, you want to hear more.
Yeah, you want more, and some musicians always say give them wanting more. Play less, but give them wanting more. I was always like, fuck that, I'm playing more. I listen to Jaco Pastorius way too much. You know what I mean? Or Steve Harris or Getty. I'm giving them more. You know what I mean? So, um, anything else on that?
No, just one more thing. I think after the final verse, I think he says like "all right," and then you hear like Mike Bloomfield go.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. I
Uh,
wish it was longer. Like he should have let it go a little bit and then cut
yeah.
it.
I wish he could have let the musicians Cooper go a little bit off more because he plays that electric piano, and that's the only time you hear electric piano on this album, like fully in the mix. This is probably the best mixed album,
Yeah.
song, and album because you hear all the instruments. You hear the bass really good. You hear
Hmm.
Bloomfield, you know. So, and I think his production, like on Blonde, is just going to get better and better, kind of like
Well,
Rutsch.
I was gonna say Blonde on Blonde is, and we're gonna cover it, in our future episodes.
Yeah,
But when you listen to Blonde on Blonde, everything that he did on bringing all back home and Highway 61,
yeah,
he polishes, he perfects it. He called it this mercurial sound. He perfected it on Blonde on Blonde. So who knows where he would have gone after that? But
I
after Dylan stops.
know. Okay, so let me see. Just like Tom Thumb Blues. Uh, wow. This song is fucked up, man. This song is really fucked up. 6 verses. Okay. Um, I think there's no chorus in it. There's
Mm-hmm.
no chorus, and it's 6 straight verses. I think it's about his experience in Mexico that he
Yeah,
went.
Juarez.
Yep. I wasn't even going to try to pronounce that. Thank you. Uh, he sees poverty, despair, sickness, hookers, and corrupt police everywhere. A corrupt police department, a lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol, and it makes him sad. And he writes a sad song about it. And he goes back to New York. That's my take on it.
Brilliant. I think, and again, you know how we said it's just funny because first of all, I don't know if you found this in your research. I don't know why the song is called "Just Like Tom Thumb's Blues." Do you know why?
No,
I
I
always wonder that because lyrically, I don't have an answer, but lyrically, the song Dylan has a it's funny. I don't think he grew up poor, but he has a great way about singing about poverty. And I
yeah.
had to first of all, it's a blues song, right? So it has a blues, beautiful song. I think it's one of the most um like production wise, like beautiful blues songs. Like it's
Mhm.
perfect. Everything from the beginning, and you'll talk about the music, but the lyrics, yeah. And then I took a you just drove home the points. It's actually really depressing. And he's talking about Juarez, Mexico,
Yeah, yeah,
where it's just horrible. It's
yeah.
drugs, prostitutes, poverty. And then I love, he said, I'll just read the last verse. I started out on Burgundy, but soon hit the harder stuff. Like,
Yes, yeah. It's like
obvious.
yeah,
Everybody said they're right behind me when the game got rough. Because you can get mugged in Juarez. But
yeah,
the joke was on me. There was nobody even to call my bluff. And then finally he ends it. I'm going back to New York City. I do believe I've had enough. And
yeah,
then ends the song is really, yeah, you're right. It's really harsh and sad.
yeah. And
But
it's like it's just an experience that you could kind of really read it. It's almost like Rush on that. That's like a Rush kind of,
it
you know.
is.
You could it's all there. There's no absurdisms or anything. He doesn't throw in. You know, does he mention Santa Ana in a song?
Uh I don't know. That's a great question. I do know you'll appreciate this. Um The lyrics incorporate literary references to murders in the Rue Morgue.
This song?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So the only reason I say that is because Iron Maiden.
When there was Steve Harris was listening. I don't think Steve Harris ever played a Bob Dylan album in his life.
I don't think I wonder if he was listening to him.
I
That's a good
doubt.
point. That's a good
I, don't,
point.
I could see Dickinson maybe for the poetry, the poetic thing. Well, that's a great question. Steve Harris, did you ever listen to a Bob Dylan song? Nah, bloody ain't. With a bad voice. you know. Right.
But yeah, the lyrics are they allude to feelings of isolation and despair. And then apparently, I gotta find out who Tom Thumb is. It's like a metaphorical figure.
Tom Thumb was a children's book, from what I
So,
think.
so maybe you're onto something because that's what just like Tom Thumb's Blues.
Yeah, because Tom Thumb was before my time, but I remember hearing about Tom Thumb, like or reading about it, or finding an old book that my parents might have had laying around. Um, Musically, slow and sad, passion in the vocals, definitely
Yeah,
a lot.
it's one of I think it's one of Dylan's best vocals.
Great guitar, as always. I'm gonna repeat myself again. Chord progression's beautiful. Nice drum fills. There's a nice effect on the guitar. I don't know what it is. It's a very unique effect. Great bass line and great harmonica. And it's just enough. I think this song, they didn't need to. I mean, the verses are much, but he, well, not as much as the next song. Oh my god! But the And sometimes the verses are too much, maybe take a verse out, but this is perfect because he's telling that story, which is pretty amazing.
No, for sure. And it's funny. I'm just reading here also that just like Tom Thumb's Blues took more attempts to perfect than any other songs recorded that day, and it wasn't until take 16 that they captured the one we hear on the album.
Wow, that's fucking
So it would make sense. Like this song is definitely well crafted.
yeah. That's why Mike Bloomfield didn't want to play with them anymore after this.
They're probably like, man, I don't
Now
know.
this is before the Newport Festival, or after the Newport.
No, it's after.
Okay, all right. So he probably dug playing with them live, and because he got to rip and stuff, and then he went in the studio with them. He's like, "Oh God, this is rough." Poor Mike Bloomfield. Okay, Desolation Row.
So the last we conclude with
The
strip back, right? You would say.
the 11-minute epic.
Yep, it's an epic. And by the way, just from the title, it's funny. Just like Tom Thumb's Blues and Desolation Row are probably one of the most. I don't know if you would agree, but Desolation Row is just sad.
Yeah. This
Like it's interesting. He ends it on a very sad and kind of like no hope note.
well, this one I think absurdism comes back. It's
Yep.
all over. It's all over this. I mean, it's nuts. It's nuts. And there is a point. There's a point to it that I got. So I'll read what I got. Desolation Row. Some of the things that I got a kick out of: Betty Davis, Cinderella, Romeo, Einstein disguised as Robin Hood, Phantom of the Opera as a priest, dressed like a priest. The Titanic comes up. A calypso singer comes up. There are prostitutes in this song. He mentions prostitutes doing their activities. And it's kind of like a history of Dylan's life, seeing the individual lost in the chaos of the world. I don't know how you feel about that.
So yeah, no, that's good good job because I would say it's an epic surreal poem.
Yeah.
11 minutes, like you really gotta
I'm just naming the craziness, the characters and stuff.
right. You mentioned some of the main points, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
And I think the main point is getting lost in a chaotic world.
Yeah, and getting lost on Desolation Row.
That's the whole point of the song. To break, you could break, you can't really break down.
Now the question is, do you want to be on Desolation Row, Cheech?
No. Well, I am. I'll be there in about 9 hours.
I think a certain temple is on Desolation Row.
Oh yeah. Lost in the chaos of the world. That's pretty much where. Hey, we got to rename the temple Desolation Row. See, we have We have a Dylan language. We have a Rush language. Mr. Jones, Desolation Row.
Mr. Jones, man.
Maggie's Farm. We talked about it. Being the temple. So I don't know. I think I did a pretty good analyzation. I was nervous, man, because like the last time I wasn't so good with Dylan, because I was taking the Bruce Dickinson Rush plant approach, and it doesn't
No,
work.
you can't. No, and this one, I'll be honest with you, you need to understand, yeah, all the references, and then the fact that he's writing this surreal tone. And do you know Kafka, Franz Kafka, Kafkaesque?
Yeah.
So he's also doing this weird Kafkaesque imagery. So this song is really difficult, but you did a good job. The point is he's weaving this stories together. This song is considered one of Bob Dylan's masterpieces, and I think for sure for good reason.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And this is interesting. You know the poet Allen Ginsberg.
Yeah, sure.
So this had an influence from him as well.
Wow, amazing.
So and then so you definitely don't want to be in Desolation Row. And just to look at this last 11-minute great folk song. I love it. You know what's funny? You listen to it, you don't realize it's 11 minutes
No,
because
it
it's
goes
so
by quick
great.
because of the flow the way
The
he's
chords, right?
going. Yeah,
It's funny because last verse he says, "Yes, I received your letter yesterday about the time the doorknob broke." Again, Dylan humor because
yeah,
he's on death. When you asked me how I was doing, was that some kind of joke? All these people that you mentioned, yes, I know them. They're quite lame. I had to rearrange their faces and give them all another name. He's talking about surreal, what he's doing on the song.
yeah.
Right now, I can't read too good. Don't send me no more letters, not unless you mail them from Desolation Row. So it's
Wow.
brilliant. It's kind of like he's getting meta in there.
Yeah, genius, man. All right, so musically, holy shit, 11 minutes, and I think this took a lot of takes too, if I'm not mistaken. I think Bloomfield said it took a ton of takes. I think. Um, so there's a motif in here that I love that the guitar's playing. You know what I'm talking about? That little riff.
Yeah, dude, it's so great. And I think that was played by.
I don't know if it's Bloomfield.
No,
Doesn't
no, no.
sound.
It's not. No, no, no. It was an invited person that was in the sessions. It was. I'll tell you right now.
Because
So har. So yeah, a few takes. Okay. So it was Nashville bass guitarist Charlie McCoy,
okay,
who happened to be in New York and was invited by Bob Johnston to contribute an improvised acoustic guitar part. And
yeah,
then and then another person, Russ Savakus, played bass guitar on the album
okay.
on the track.
And I love that pattern, and that's a classic motif, and it's
Oh,
so
and you're
yep,
talking about the part goes like ding, 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 like that.
yeah.
Great.
Because Bloomfield, would have played it more slower and bluesier. That almost has like a, I guess you said Nashville. The guy's from. It has like a
Nashville.
vibe. Yeah. So I love the motif. It's a great folk song, great strumming, great guitar. There is a great chorus in there. Great harmonica solo, and then the ending with the harmonica. He starts to jam the harmonica out till the end, so he gets to jam. Bob Dylan gets to jam out on harmonica, but he doesn't let the other guys jam out because there's like a little. Maybe it's like 10 seconds long. That's like a jam to him. But
Dude, I love the acoustic guitar flourishes. I think they're my favorite part of the song, especially the way it begins, and then throughout the song where you hear ding 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 ding
yeah,
ding ding. Like it's
almost
so
sounds like
great.
Deliverance, another horror movie.
And just one thing
Wow,
about also
that's a great
um
track movie.
Deliverance. I have to
Yeah,
see that. I haven't seen it.
don't don't see it.
And I think I won't because I think that's why I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, but
Um,
is killer on banjo. You know, I mean, it's a great movie. It's just the scene in it that I put it up there with The Exorcist. It's brutal. And the actor Ned Beatty, I never looked. My friend Mike.
Deliverance. I heard of that movie. I've heard of it.
Ned Beatty was a
I
famous actor, and my friend Mike used to say, "I can never look at him the same ever again." It's in there.
Deliverance, right? 1972.
Burt Reynolds classic, great movie, but there's a scene in there that is just fucking brutal, man, brutal. Very. I think Tarantino took the idea in Pulp Fiction, if you know what I mean, at the end.
Sounds right.
Yep.
Don't have to say no more.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, so just one more thing about Desolation Row. It's great because it closes Highway 61 on an acoustic note, and I
Yeah.
think it's the best way to close. A nice contrast to the sort of like chaos we heard before, and it sort of like winds you down.
It does. It does.
Now it's great, but then lyrically, I think uh, it's one of his most sophisticated songs. It's sort of similar to Stairway to Heaven,
Yeah.
where it's an epic, a rock and roll folk epic.
It really is.
And then
It's
not bad. You got the main parts and characters in the song.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm getting better with breaking down Dylan. I'm proud of myself because the last episode I was a little nervous on this one. I'm like, oh man, he's gonna. I feel like a student, you know. I was way
No,
off.
no. That was good because um, you mentioned a lot of the main people,
I
and again,
love.
because it's an 11-minute song, so it's long.
I mean, I love the people. I love Betty Davis, Cinderella, Romeo, Einstein, and Robin Hood, Phantom of
Dude,
the Opera.
no, you
Rest
know
in
what's crazy? Bruce Springsteen will do something similar.
yeah,
Like this song, dude. Like, have you ever heard of Bruce Springsteen, early Springsteen on "Greetings from Asbury Park"? He does this thing where he nicknames people like he's doing.
yeah, 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 yeah.
This
Oh,
is crazy the influence.
who would put Phantom of the Opera dressed as a priest? That's that's insane. There's
It's a great image.
totally twisted image. Just like
Uh,
Jack the Ripper sitting at the board of education or commerce or whatever. You
yeah,
know, pretty twisted.
dude. I think one of the best lines. I have two favorite verses, and they kind of come. Also, Cinderella sweeping up on Desolation Row. That's
Yeah,
such a great image.
yeah, yeah.
He says here, now the moon is almost hidden. The stars are beginning to hide. The fortune telling lady has even taken all her things inside. So he's kind of describing Desolation Row, all except for Cain and Abel and the Hunchback of Notre Dame. Dude, it's so he's like he does what I think Plant couldn't do, where he combines random things, but they make sense.
They do.
Of course, the Hunchback is going to be on Desolation Row because everyone hates him. He's
Yeah,
ugly. Or
yeah,
everyone thinks he's ugly.
yeah, yeah. And the same thing with the Phantom of the Opera. He's broke.
Right.
He's a broken man. He's broken. He could not. He couldn't have the love that he wanted. You know.
Why do you think Cain and Abel? Because Cain kills Abel.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
you think because he's saying because they're on Desolation Row, Cain will end up killing Abel?
no, it's just another religious reference. I
See,
think
but I think that because do you know why Cain kills Abel?
he's jealous of him.
Bible doesn't give you an answer.
They don't give you an answer.
Nope. So you're gonna have to kind of like read into it, but you got to do it faith. But what Bob Dylan is saying is because Cain and Abel are on Desolation Row, Cain is gonna feel desolate and then end up murdering his brother because of it.
Right. Right.
It's brilliant. And then he adds the Hunchback of Notre Dame, which a person that feels desolate.
Not to get in the Bible, but who comes from the line of Cain? Wasn't somebody evil in the Bible?
Methuselah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the weird part is that, and I got to check this, Enoch comes from that too. But
Enoch.
I'm not sure if it's a different Enoch. I'm sorry, Enoch. I'm saying in Spanish. Enoch.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if it's another Cain. But yeah, but Methuselah comes from the line of Cain.
And that
And
would the Book of Enoch would make sense because a lot of uh what's his name? God, I can't think of his name. A lot of early magicians would study the Book of Enoch. And I can't
see, so that would make sense. I was
I
actually with me and the scholar, if you know who I'm talking
yeah.
about. Um, we were talking about the Book of Enoch, and I was trying to tell him that first of all, Enoch descended from Noah, but then I also read, also was kind of confused, but also descended from Cain. Now, I'm not sure if it's a different Cain, but
Right.
one of the people, Methuselah, descended from
Yeah.
Cain, and he was kind of.
I know and I can't think of the famous magician. He was for a queen. He was like a astrologer magician. He did stuff with the Book of Enoch to see the future or create
Right.
crazy stuff used in that kind of stuff. So, all right, the cover. Anything? I mean, we covered a lot on that song.
No, I think we'll grow on that one. Great song.
Yeah. Okay, so the cover. Interesting. I love the cover. It's
Me,
simple.
me too. Very simple.
David Kramer took the photo. I don't know much about him. I just know he was a photographer. Dylan is wearing a Triumph motorcycle T-shirt in the picture. And ironically, in '67 he got in a motorcycle accident.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he was just getting into motorcycles. So from what David Kramer said, Dylan sat down at the steps in front of I don't know if it was in the city. They didn't say where I didn't know
So
what
it was in the city,
Yeah.
and this is interesting where, yeah, definitely in the city.
Okay. And took the picture, but he wasn't happy with it. He said it needs more. So he had Dylan's friend Bob Newworth stand behind him with a camera hanging, which is ironic, right? You're taking a picture of a guy and he's holding
Right.
it. He took 2 pictures, and they chose the second one for the cover. And it was just done with no plans, spare the moment. And the cool thing is, I love Dylan's jacket.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's like what? It's like silk, right? It's like very
Looks like
cool.
Ante would wear.
I'm not gonna lie, but it is cool. Like I always was like, wow. Like I remember when I first looked at this album cover, I didn't know who Bob Dylan was, and I was like, what is he wearing?
Yeah, it's a weird jacket. It's cool, and he's holding sunglasses. So, not an elaborate album like the last album. Bring it on home. Bring it. What was it? My brain is getting fried. What's the last album called?
Bring it all back home.
For a second. Am I there?
I'll be careful.
Yeah.
Did it stop recording?
Yeah. It's good though.
But did it stop recording? I didn't notice.
No, it took our hour and 30 and went back to 0.
Okay. Just repeat. Yeah.
Yeah, that may mess with the download, but maybe it won't. It happened last night too, but anyway.
Yeah, and by the way, he's holding his Ray-Ban sunglasses, those iconic Ray-Bans, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And
why didn't he wear them? You wonder why.
It's interesting, right? I mean, you know what it is? Because the sunglasses gives him another look. So I think he's trying to, you know how he had the album cover on Bringing It All Back Home, where he's like looking at the camera,
Yeah,
with the cat. And another interesting thing is like his look, like he looks like he's hostile, or he's like moody.
Yeah.
So I was reading here that it's sort of like, and this is Kramer who took the photograph. He's almost challenging me or you or whoever he's looking at, saying, "What are you going to do about it?"
Exactly.
So it's maybe a jab at his critics and reporters.
A jab at the folk world.
And even the way that jacket that I think Daquan would wear.
Yeah, totally. Look, I think he has one. I've seen him with these big, bushy, like fucking. I don't know.
Like that color? I think I have.
I swear to God, maybe he thrifted that jacket.
Tell him, check. It might be this original
it's probably
jacket.
$250 million. Imagine Daquan got it at a thrift shop. It's got Highway 61 revisited in the sleeve lyrics. Shit like that happens, man. I remember hearing that somebody bought Harley Davidson made 2 motorcycle, fronts that you put on your motorcycle, like where you sit. I don't know what it's called. You have your handlebars and then those 2 pieces. And a guy bought that piece, and when he went home and looked at it, it said to Elvis from Harley Davidson.
Wow.
Worth like millions of $1 million or some shit like that. I think I saw it in an Antique Roadshow or one of those crazy shows, but anyway, man, we did it. This was a good album to do, and I think our fans are really gonna like it. And Dylan is not easy to do a podcast on and analyze.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. You need, man, just the fact that, first of all, I feel like you got to listen to music. Like if you don't listen to it lyrically, you're not going to make this album.
No, you got to listen to every song, and you got to listen to the lyrics. I mean, we're picking up biblical things. We're picking up, blues people referenced on Highway 61. There's so much more, going to Mexico and all this bad shit that he saw. The guy's a fucking genius. That's the bottom line with Bob Dylan. He knows how to paint a picture when he writes a song,
Yeah.
And then sometimes he paints a picture of insanity, and you're just like, what?
I know, and that's when he gets surreal and absurd, and he takes you to, like lyrically, he takes you to places you wouldn't think.
Yeah.
Which is great. I think he is way ahead of his peers of what rock and roll is going to bring later.
Oh, yeah. He innovated everything, and it's amazing when you got people like John Lennon, writing about Mr. Jones in songs. So, he inspired the Beatles, for God's sakes, which was his competition, in a way. They were the two biggest bands in the world at that time. Well, he wasn't a band, Dylan, but, the Dylan and the Beatles were, Beatles were the biggest thing in the world, and Bob Dylan was number 2, but it's a good place to be.
I always say the rock music that we know of, obviously it has its origins in rhythm and blues and blues.
Yeah.
And the Delta blues, Elvis, Little Richard, Chuck Berry. But I'll be honest with you, rock was built on Bob Dylan and the Beatles.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, especially now Bob Dylan, I have a new appreciation for him because he pretty much made the rock singer, and both lyrically and musically. And then the Beatles brought the 4-piece band aspect and just perfected it.
Yeah, they did the live band thing, the Beatles. Playing live with the band, where they were a little bit more rock and roll, and a lot more rock and roll. And Dylan was rock and roll in his own style.
Yeah, he started out folk, and then pretty much was the godfather of all these things that we know today. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, he doesn't get enough credit for that. I mean, the guy, I forgot his name, said that this is the most important album of the '60s.
I read somewhere, I'm trying to remember where I read this at. I don't know if it was a critic, journalist, or author. He said with this album, the '60s began. I'll be honest with you, I agree with him.
I think so. Yeah.
I think this album is amazing. It's one of those albums that I think it changed my life. When I first heard it during high school, I tracked down the song Like a Rolling Stone. And I'll be honest with you, I thought it was the greatest thing. I never heard anything like it.
Like a Rolling Stones, to me, sums up the '60s. That song is the '60s. It's like, everything. The hippie is right before the hippies kind of blew up. Vietnam War started. He was kind of predicting all this stuff, and it happened. The hippie movement, because the hippies weren't really there in what year is it? '65.
No, I think they were coming up though. Like this was when Bob Dylan.
After this, the hippie started in late '66, '67,
which ends up influencing the Beatles with Sgt. Pepper.
Yeah. Even the Beatles changed.
The Summer of Love.
Yeah, the Beatles completely changed from "I Want to Hold Your Hand" to Sgt. Pepper, "Helter Skelter," one of their heaviest albums songs. But yeah, man. So great job.
This is good.
And I look forward to Blonde on Blonde. Hopefully, I'll get 2 in a row because I can't believe I did it. Yeah,
And yeah, you did I think they're hard albums. So these are hard.
They're hard to analyze. I mean, Rush and Maiden are so natural, and Zeppelin, it's so natural for me to analyze the lyrics. I mean, Plant's a little tricky, but Rush and Maiden are like no-brainers. But Dylan is like...
He demands your attention.
Dylan's like doing homework.
Yeah.
Studying and I know I'm like studying for a test for Manny because I know all this stuff, and I want to.
Dude, it's so funny. Without going into too much detail, I have assigned sort of like Bob Dylan songs, and it's an exercise. And first of all, you got to pay attention. Second, you need to understand context. Third, Bob Dylan's poetry. You're gonna have to kind of break everything apart.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And the magic that comes like when you analyze it, like what you just did.
Yeah. That's a great thing if you're an English teacher. Have kids analyze Dylan's lyrics. you know. And I love going back to the beginning of the episode when we talked about Simon and Garfunkel doing that diss
Dude,
song.
I think Simon, that I forgot the name of the song because it's so weird, but I thought that was brilliant.
It is. I never even knew that
Like he
existed.
got the parody right.
That's the first diss song. You know, that's totally the first diss song.
I know Paul Simon. I think I read this. Like he never thought it was. He wasn't really actually like trying to get Dylan, but you listen to that song. It's just so funny how he got all those elements. Even the sound. He got the sound.
And I'm wondering how Dylan took it as maybe like a funny compliment. You know, it's almost like Weird Al before Weird Al. You know how Weird Al would mock all the greats and it was stupid, but it was funny. You know, but
Yeah.
they nailed it. You know.
I think it's Paul Simon. He's really funny for that.
Yeah. Paul Simon's a funny dude. You know, there's a
And
great.
any name checks Ayn Rand.
I love that. You ever see that
Like
movie
Bob
with
Dylan
Paul
name check
Simon?
Fitzgerald.
Yep. There's a great movie with Paul Simon. It's awesome, and I can't think of the name of it. He actually acts in it, and he's a musician. Yeah. You gotta look that up. I gotta send it to you. I
All
think
right,
it like
little bit.
from the '70s. I think it came
Send it
out.
to
And
me.
his band's in it and stuff. Anyway, we would always laugh, me and my friend Bruce, about Art Garfunkel's solo career.
To be honest, Art Garfunkel he's a good singer, but with Simon and Garfunkel, I can see why they split because
like who is gonna buy Art Garfunkel solo album? It's like
wait, is that a
Hall
joke
and
in
Oates.
is that a joke in the rock genre? I feel like that's a joke.
I know. I mean, me and my friend Bruce, who's a big Dylan fan, we were talking. The poet. I was talking about.
Who bought Art Garfunkel's album?
I don't know. I don't know. And same thing with I think Hall and Oates.
Like you would buy like John Hall's album.
Yeah, Oates did a solo album. Like, okay, and they hate each other now. They sued each other. It's stupid, But yeah, Art Garfunkel, going to see him rock out. I'm gonna go see Art Garfunkel at the Capitol. There'll be 3 people there. I mean, I don't know. No, just Art Garfunkel, but
No. Imagine you get that one person who's like a diehard Art Garfunkel.
I'm sure when Art Garfunkel went, Paul Simon went on to be legendary. Obviously, Simon and Garfunkel was the '60s, was '70s. Then when Paul Simon went solo, 50 Ways to Lead Your Lover, all these great songs and stuff. Art Garfunkel was like, fuck, what am I gonna do now?
What did he do? I know he released an album, which it's so funny. Like, who actually bought that?
I'm sure he released a lot of albums. I gotta Wikipedia him and
He was
see.
probably happy when they reunited that one, like in the '80s.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that. But anyway, man, great show as always. The Cheech and Manny
Likewise.
show. On our second Dylan one. So much fun. Look forward to doing Blonde on Blonde. I have a lot of work to do on that, and that's gonna probably be maybe 3 episodes because there's 15 or 16 songs on that. It's a double album.
Double album.
And it's got the Hawks on it, which is interesting, which is the band, which we both love. So and then what's coming up next for us? What do we got coming out?
So pretty soon, definitely Led Zeppelin 4.
Mm-hmm.
Counterparts?
Yep.
Right? Counterparts and Test for Echo. Those 3 are coming out.
Oh, great. Test for Echo was a lot of fun.
That's the schedule, and then this one. And then recording wise, for our fans out there, we got an episode on punk that's gonna come up.
Yeah.
Houses of the Holy?
Yep, with Joe.
With Joe. And by the way, just in honor of the Led Zeppelin movie that I think is coming out this weekend.
Yeah. I think it came out already.
I'm gonna go out and see it. Have you seen it?
No, my sister saw it, I think. They said it was really good. I think they focus more on them as individuals opposed to a band. I don't know much about it. That's what I overheard.
I'll see it. Maybe I'll share my thoughts next week.
Yeah, that'd be great. Oh, that'd be great on the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Joe most likely seen it because he's
Oh yeah,
retired, so
yeah,
he definitely has the
yeah,
time for
yeah.
sure. So we have an episode on Punk, Houses of the Holy. We're taking a pause on Rush because we don't want it to end. We're
We
gonna
don't. Well, it's never gonna. Rush is never gonna end.
no.
We are gonna. I mean, the next one. I was thinking about writing Vapor Trails because I really, I'm like, fuck, why not? Why not?
No, not yet. We gotta wait. Let's
Yeah,
wait till maybe we should end the year with those albums. I think
yeah.
we'll
Kind of.
wait.
Yeah, because we overloaded on Rush, because
Yeah.
people.
And
Uh,
it's funny. And it's funny. We're not all about Rush. Like I know a bunch of people say to us. Even Joe said,
yeah,
you guys talk way too much about Rush. Like the thing
but
is, it's like we love Rush, so
if,
they're
if,
the greatest band in the galaxy.
if you look at our episodes, it's a lot of Rush, but it's also rap. There's like 3 rap episodes, sampling. The Zeppelin episodes are moving up.
Oh, and soundtracks, which we're going to be released too. We're going to work on
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's going to be definitely some thought. Scores and soundtracks with.
I'll do my research on like film scores because that's obviously I love movie soundtracks, but I think you and
Yeah,
Mark will do that.
yeah, I love the idea that Mark brought that up. I said I'll talk to Manny, and I'm sure it'll be a go. And I'm gonna let Mark
Yeah, and
know.
let's bring him on. I like that. Well,
Yeah, because he knows a lot about that stuff. So, but all right, man. We're signing off. Nanu,
sure.
Nanu. Great episode, and there was no problems like last night. Thank God. Tom and Jerry aren't around, and we will see you in our next episode. So peace and love. This is the Bob Dylan episode.
Peace and love, Cheech, and I'll see you out on Highway 61.
All right, man. Say hi to Robert Johnson for me.
Yes, sir.
All right.